Firmly into the second half of the season now, and round 8 here sets itself up in earnest. Welcome to arguably one of the fastest places in the world of motorsport. It's Phillip Island here on the coast of the Bass Strait in Cowes, Victoria. This has been the Damon Woods show, and it comes to what is his favourite circuit out there to go and get big results. He's had wonderful opportunities in the real world here, and virtually he's looking to translate it. I'm Jake Sperry. Zach Caban is alongside with me for today's action as we get ourselves ready for what will be a hot topic of a couple of races out there coming along tonight. And Zach, Phillip Island is one of those unique circuits. Yes, it has hairpins, but all the hairpins are quick. Average speed is the name of the game tonight.
100%. And good evening to you, Jake. Hello, everybody. What is this? The 5th round in about 9 weeks. It's been a very, very busy period for the championship, mate. As you say, firmly into the second half now, round 8 of 12. And we get a 3-week break after this one before round 9. Exciting because it's back-to-back rounds on Aussie soil. And like Bathurst, this one always throws up some spectacular racing. Better known, of course, probably for motorcycle racing, but a perler of a circuit for four-wheelers in its own right. We will see some fantastic side-by-side action tonight. You mentioned that fast-flowing nature of the circuit. 12 turns, 4.445 kilometres, one of the hidden wonders of the world because it's tucked down there on the little island near Cowes. But it is one of those circuits where you will have to work extremely hard for your overtaking manoeuvres to execute those and to consolidate those, particularly in that second race. We talk about the boys with the invert top 10. You'll be making your way through the field. You'll try and get a move done on a right-hander, but then you'll literally be on the outside of the circuit for the left-hander that follows, and there'll be a lot of that tonight. We saw a lot of that at the Red Bull Ring as well, so very similar racing traits to what we saw in Austria, mate, but should be an absolute beauty. This is always one of those circuits that delivers top-shelf racing no matter the category.
Absolutely, and you sort of set down and you see from here on out it's one a month. So here in August, one in September, October, November and December to end out the season. So there is still time to get the development sorted, to get that late flurry if you want to book your top 20 place for next year. But there are still some pitfalls to come along, Zach, like, for example, Shell V-Power Motorsport Park at the Bend comes to mind. Miami, by no means an easy circuit. And then the triple header to finish things off on the streets of Adelaide.
And important to note, that'll be slightly longer in length than the first of the Super Sprint rounds, I should say. Jake, of course, in Austria, we went 60, 60, 60 for a total of 180 kilometres. When we get to Adelaide, it'll be a total of 210, evenly divided into 70-kilometre offerings. The second of 4 rounds on Aussie soil, 3 of which are in succession, rounds 7, 8 and 9. Then a couple more flyaway rounds, including a venue that's firmly warming as the potential prospective substitute host of the Formula One World Championship finale this year. And then, of course, the streets of Adelaide await. And that, of course, is the same week in which the Pro Series supercars wrap up at the same venue as well. So just like we had Bathurst week, we'll have Adelaide week. And looking forward to that immensely. And a return to a usual format for us tonight, mate, on the back of 40 and 100-kilometre races, rather, I should say, when we were at Mount Panorama, back to 70 and 100 tonight. So something more familiar to the driving cohort, who are all chasing one man at the moment, and his name is Damon Woods. Have a look at that advantage. It is extraordinary. It's almost deflating for the rest of the paddock. You heard how, almost depressed Zach Ratway-White was about it all after the last round of the championship. That is a 244, not the maths is a strong point, but 244, I reckon, gap between Damon Woods and Zach Ratway-White. Zach Kerr jumping up nicely to 1,120. Rick Kuznetsov on the outer after some disappointment in the previous round. Marino Morella, Dean Mackay, Tom Bewley. Have a look at those gaps, though, Jake. That's the most telling point for me, and it's particularly important when we go over and have a look at the drivers that are hanging on the bubble as to who's in and out of the top 20, mate. Those gaps are widening up, making the task of trying to get into the top 20 to get your automatic secure ticket through to 2027 and the Pro Invitational Porsche Series there, all that more difficult.
Yeah, and the key here you're looking at is that gap between 1st and 10th that you see, which is about 500 points, 520 points, is the same gap between 10th 142nd in the championship. That just gives you an illustration of just how good Damon Woods has been. Brock Gilchrist, the man on the bubble at the moment. He's 11 behind Angus Lawford. Hugo Allen then at 13 above the cut line, a driver who definitely shouldn't be down there on the amount of points that he has at this stage of the season. But look at who's trying to jump in here. Harry Lawrence, 666. Ewan Baker there. Jack Vidas has had a little bit of bad luck out there. And then you got Zach Hanlon and Scott Rankin, who are trying to find their way up. And I was talking to Scott earlier on. He thinks he's found a couple of things. He's been taking the time, Zach, of course, to run in your neck of the woods, of course, with GSRC Inc., to get up to speed and say, look, we need to find some stuff in this car.
Exactly right. And he's not the only one. There are a lot of people doing away with one of the proven elements to success in sim racing land, Jake. We talk about the arrive and drive and succeed drivers all the time in this caper. That is not the case in the Porsche Pro Invitational, and particularly with the 992.2. More and more drivers saying we cannot afford to just arrive on the day and expect big things. We need to actually put the work in between rounds, and that requires a lot more dedication, a lot more commitment, and a lot more meticulous fine-tuning of their day-to-day work life and schedule in order to make that happen. It's not easy, and we lose track sometimes. It's only a 168-hour week, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Very hard to find time in that schedule, but in order to achieve great things here, these guys have had no choice but to try and do so.
Wow, what a wonderful circuit. 12 turns in an anti-clockwise direction, and every single time it offers some truly amazing running through the overtaking opportunity at the Southern Loop, over to Jungle Jack Miller's corner, and then through the Hayshed, over Lukey Heights and down to MG. This circuit is one that I think stands out as a unicorn compared to some others. We talk about areas that have a lot of speed out there, but the key here of this circuit, one of the few tracks that has opened and reopened, so it holds that regard with the likes of, say, the Red Bull Ring that we've been to earlier this season.
Exactly right, and of course was reopened with a view to hosting the Australian Motorcycle Grand Prix in 1989 and 1990. That, of course, it went back to the newly opened at the time Eastern Creek, now Sydney Motorsport Park, and then back to the island in 1997. And this year the curtain closes on that magnificent era for two-wheelers at the venue. You mentioned the 12 corners. I want to leave that track map up for about 30 seconds if we can, please, Jay. Trip-up points everywhere you look, Jake. So expect some trouble at Doohan Corner, particularly on the opening lap. Porsches do Porsche things. We know how taily the rear end of these cars can be. So that brings turn 1 into question, turn 2 into question. Turn 4, always a trip-up point, no matter what car you drive around the venue. Good overtaking opportunity if you can get a good run out of 4 through into Siberia. The Hayshed's nice and fast. Lukey Heights will trip someone up tonight, as will MG. And then you've got to set yourself up. You've got to nail the run out of MG if you want to be looking at setting yourself up for a solid run around 11-12 and on to the main straight. Because if you get that wrong and you're boxed in a congested battle pack, a freight train of cars, you end up being the sitting duck. We know that the main straight will be good for slipstream and tow as well. So it's one of the great circuits. It is only 12 corners and 4.445 kilometres, but you fit a lot into the lap. 2.7 miles on the old scale as well. Anti-clockwise the direction. And Doohan Corner, of course, Boner Corner, Miller Corner, you know the names from the World Motorcycle Championship, but as we say, some great history here for the four-wheelers as well, and hopefully the Porsche Pro Invitational will add to that tonight. As I said earlier, Jake, back to the usual format for racing as well.
Yeah, 16 laps here today, so 17 kilometres in race number 1. The grid from race 1 set that how they will race 2. They reverse top 10 for how they go about things. 23 laps that they will have there for that second race of the night. So they're going to be looking at this being super aggressive, but they also have 20 minutes of qualifying to set themselves up. And perfect time to talk track temperatures out there, Zach. It is a briskly cold 20-degree track temperature out there, and it is gusting about from the southwest here today at a rate of 22 kilometers an hour, which means you're getting a crosswind across the main straight ahead into turn 2.
Indeed you are. 80% humidity as well. Those winds are strong. There's no doubt about that. 20 degrees, the track temp, 19 the ambient. Sunny conditions so far, but you can see a little bit of black cloud around. Let's wait and see if anything comes of that. I would suspect not, but we wouldn't say no to wet weather racing, would we? Especially around here. You don't need it to spice things up, but it doesn't hurt. The wind is an interesting one, very strong, of course, down there by the ocean. It will play a part, especially at that sort of speed as well, Jake. We are 3 minutes away from the end of practice. Memo to me, refresh the timing screen, and we'll have cars out there on circuit for qualifying over 20 minutes in just a few moments. Apart from Damon Woods, mate, who have we got our eye on tonight?
Well, I think we've got a number of places we can look at. Hugo Allen has proven today that he's got pace. He's only half a tenth off at the moment as practice is concerned. But there's Zach Rattray-White. You can't have a race like this in the Motor Racing Porsche Pro Invitational without him out there at the moment. A little adjustment there, and Zach Rattray-White all in white, Zach, because he's got himself a case of white gloves, the white shirt, white's in the surname. Everything's got to be all white on the night.
And hopefully it will be all right as well. We are just getting some word through. There's going to be a couple of things happening behind the scenes, so just bear with us as we watch Zach Rattray-White go around here through the hay shed on his way up towards Lukey Heights. Plus, as he makes his way up towards the top of the circuit here, Zach Rattray-White, of course, second in the championship right now, up over the top, trying to lay a lap down here in the closing stages of practice to set himself up, hopefully, for a solid run in qualifying, remembering full well that he probably wants to be netting a front row start here, Jake. Anything less than that will leave him slightly agitated, I would feel. The interest for mine isn't necessarily with a view to the opening race starting grid. It's more with a view to how these guys go about their business in the invert. There's no, Jackson Ray Harner getting it all out of shape on the exit of the Southern Loop through the grass. Kept hold of it, kept the boot into it, presses on, and good to see him back on the grid as well. But just with regards to that, Jake, no strategy to lean on. So you've got to do all your talking on the racetrack. Safety cars will help. Inevitably, we will likely see one tonight. The strike rate for it has been fairly high so far this season. It'll be interesting to see how aggressive they're willing to be very early in the piece, in the early part of that invert top 10.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone's going to be looking to go harder, better, faster, stronger. Sorry for those who got into my Daft Punk era there for a little bit. But Jackson Raihana is looking around and trying to be someone who is finding that way to jump up as practice just about brings itself over to a close. And we will move over into those 20 minutes of qualifying. Now, everyone has to qualify together. There's your results from practice. Damon Woods on top with Hugo Allen, Dean Mackay, they're doing well for OPRX Gamma Flare, and Zach Rattray-White, your top four. The new boy at Logitech G OBDM, Sebastian Eskandari, making the jump over for round 5 away from Team Max Boost. Zach, for a young driver to jump teams like Sebastian Eskandari, he's only 13 years of age. You know, it's a lot to uproot and try and move to a different team, but I don't dislike the decision here to see him jump to a team that has a lot of proven talent and real-world talent as well out there in the world of motorsport that he can learn off of, he can get better from, and he can go to that next level. Max Boost was a great team for him, but this, to me, in my mind, is a step up in level.
100%. And it's not only a big move for Sebastian Eskandari, but it's also a magnificent vote of confidence, I feel, from the Logitech Orbit Drop Bear Motorsport stable. They've observed this bloke from the outside. They've been made to stand up and take notice of the talent and what he brings to the table. And they've offered him an opportunity to jump ship mid-season. And obviously he's accepted that invitation with open arms. So fingers crossed for Sebastian Eskandari and for Logitech Orbit Drop Bear Motorsport that ends up being a long-standing and very successful partnership, and it gets its first real bit of scrutiny tonight from what we'll be observing him bring to the table here at the Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit. There's your 4 men, ladies and gentlemen, qualifying underway. Damon Woods out there on circuit. Thank you to super producer Jay Kennedy in the background, getting some technical stuff sorted for us on the long hop, skip and jump. And we'll step lively in to bring you up to speed with the times as they come in. Keep an eye out too, ladies and gentlemen. You should be able to observe a couple of little round-on-round enhancements that Joe's been hard at work at on the bottom of your screen as this qualifying session unfolds. Onto the main straight we go. Let's go to work. Hayden Veld, we've got our eyes on him at the moment. There are several drivers, Jake and Jay, who we've watched throughout the course of the season, not necessarily net and bag the results they would have been hoping to. Hopefully, they can turn that around tonight, if not when we get to Shelby Pale Motorsport Park in South Australia, which is, of course, the next stop on the tour in 3 weeks' time. Damon Woods, 1 minute 32.031, but we expect the times to tumble a couple of seconds yet.
Yep, so 28 flat on the opening sector, working through turn 5 and into Siberia, turn 6. You're that far away from civilization, that's why they call it what they call it. Then you've got to work under the 4 and 20 bridge and say there's more than just Blackburn's bait to this pie. It's the hay shed that comes along next at turn 8. Flat out, takes a little bit of curve, 230 clicks, up to Lukey Heights. Now you do have to drop the speed in this car, 155 kilometres an hour over the top of the hill. Drop it down their hill from 170 into MG, and it takes forever to get through this corner. You think you can stamp the power down? You can't. You have to be patient as well through the next left-hander of turn 11, 130 kilometres an hour for trying to get it to really work up. He's half a second clear at the moment with his qualifying times, but as he pushes with everything on the line through the final corner, Damon Woods loves getting the best out of himself at this place, and a 126.7 is an indicator of that. 1 second off of his fastest time out there in qualifying as we go back up then and look at some of the other times that's coming through. Zach Rattray-White, a fastest first sector on this run forward. Middle sector, though, a little something to be desired.
Indeed, and as you saw, Damon Woods, the benchmark, 25.9, so that's a 4/10 difference to Zach Rattray-White's 26.3 round. They come onto the main straight. Let's have a look and see what sort of time Rattray-White can lay down. He'll jump up the order and up into third. So only Hugo Allen between Damon Woods and Zach Rattray-White at this very point in time. Dean Mackay fastest to the first sector though, Jake, so let's watch what he can bring to the table.
Yeah, I'll be intrigued to see what he does. He's a couple hundredths up in that first sector, and he looks behind and no, he's down a 10 here in the middle, so he's going to need to gather it back because he's about half a tenth shy. Daddy Davison up into the top 5. Reese Wakefield finds himself 6th right now. Jackson Raihana inside the top 10 will be feeling quite comfortable about things in the early stages of the qualifying. Working hard there through turn 11. Now trying to set up 12 here. You just got to try and take that out to in to outline and get the drive sorted. And here comes the push from Dean Mackay. Here he goes, hoping that 27.2 can be even quicker. 26.7. It's second still because Damon Woods improved to a 26.5 with purple second and final sectors. Jacob O'Reilly, by comparison, looking for times. He's green and setting personal bests out there, and they shouldn't be expecting personal bests for about the first 4 laps of what they do in a qualifying session.
And that's been the telling point throughout the course of the season, hasn't it? Different circuits, different conditions. In some instances, we've seen the track come to the drivers the further we get into the session, but that, as you say, 3 to 4 lap window is where you're looking to make your move, make your mark. And Zach Rattray-White has just done that. 126.446. Are you kidding me? What a time that is from Zach Rattray-White. And he's 0.1 up on Damon Woods at the moment, who was quickest to the first sector. By these proverbial. He's still up. And he was fast to the second split, but it's not the fastest second split of the night so far, as evidenced by the yellow light on that Sector 2 time of 25.90. Let's ride with this one, Jake. Let's see if the form man of the series, the points leader, can get himself back to the top of the summit.
He's been fantastic at finding pole positions. I think there's only been one round where he hasn't been at the top in qualifying. Such has been the way he goes, and crosses with a 26.3 and goes clear by 0.5 of a second. A magical final sector of a 32 there gets it all sorted. That 32.5 is simply wonderful from Damon Woods. Hugo Allen now up into 4th position. Stuart Ellis having a great qualifying right now, as well as Sam Muir. They are 6th and 7th.
Ewan Baker in 29th at the moment. We've just picked him up. Can he move up the order? We'll wait and see. Sebastian Eskandari sits 20th at the moment, for those of you that have got invested interest in his progress. So again, he'll hope to improve on that as the session goes on. Good to see Sam Muir up there in 8th spot at the moment. Rick Kuznetsov, Danny Davison making up the top 10. So Danny's having a good run. Miles Burgess also convincingly in 6th spot. There's Ewan Baker across the start-finish line. A 1:27.229, Jake.
Zach, 5th to 24th is split by 0.3 of a second.
That's ridiculous, isn't it? Oh, Sam Muir to 4th as well, just as you say that. And this is the sort of circuit where you can expect those razor-thin margins, Jake. I'm not surprised by that in the slightest. Damon Woods here trying to improve on his own time at the moment, 1:26.399. Down onto the main straight across the start-finish line. Can he improve on that and widen the gap out? No. To Zach Ratway White, it is only 12 thousandths of a second at the moment.
Yeah, so I think he's just reaching the end of this tyre life. He might be thinking about diving back into the pits on this lap, put a fresh set of boots on and go for it again, because we're nearing that halfway stage. Shep up then to 8th place in the number 43. Goes there with about 0.5 second's gap over to Damon Woods. Climbing with Harry Lawrence, the man on the outside looking in. He's trying to get himself some big points out there, but being in 34th, he's not giving himself a great platform when the guy he's fighting, Brock Gilchrist, the Kiwi, is currently in 21st position.
So Harry Lawrence will be hoping to make some ground, and if he can't make up the entire deficit at this particular point, Jake, he'll be relying on his racecraft and his race speed in order to make that ground up when we turn wheels in anger in about 25 minutes' time. The interesting thing for mine in all of that will be, when you look at Brock Gilchrist, he's a pretty good charger as well. Some of these guys definitely race better than they qualify. But yes, not an ideal start, as you say, for Harry Lawrence. Angus Lawford's still struggling to move out of 27
we might need a replay
at the moment. And Stephen McCartan is... Go for it, Jake.
Sorry, we might need a replay of Scott Rankin on his 4th lap out there. He has had a massive rollover at Lukey Heights. It's the scariest part of the circuit to have an issue like it, and we will definitely need to catch a replay, because Scott's race in qualifying is done and dusted, and that's not great for a driver, Zach, who's 100 points off the bubble.
No, that's exactly right. Things go from bad to worse for Scotty Rankin in this series. And again, that's another guy that is going to spend the night. And we've just had word come through to our broadcast chat thread on Messenger that he's fighting a broken brake pedal at the moment. So, yes, things going from bad to worse for him. You've got an OPR car in the dirt on the run to turn 1 at the moment. That was ranking up and over, and the car just launched. Once the wheel dug into the sand pit, it tipped him up and flipped him up and over and out. Rankin's qualifying session done, and he'll be trying to work his way through the field for the balance of this night. So he has already been committed to a night of being stuck in the traffic, Jake.
He has, but if he's having to fight a broken brake pedal, you know, Zach, what are you going to have to do? You're going to have to try and map the clutch pedal to be a button and basically have to use the clutch pedal as a brake? What sort of way would you go about that? Is it a load cell? You know, there's a lot of things that it could be that you fix the trouble. And the worst thing about a brake pedal failure is how much time you've actually got here to fix it. You've got 10 minutes to fix a broken brake pedal. It's not as simple as you get the second-hand set of pedals out, because most drivers don't have one. That's right, harder around.
The Summit Sim Sport entry pointing the wrong way at Miller Corner. As qualifying session number, what are we up to? 8 for the year continues. It gets away from you, doesn't it? And we are already halfway through that session. This is Ray Harner at Miller.
Yeah,
Porsche doing Porsche things. There you go.
Yeah, back wants to see what the front end's looking at, so a transfer half around. Oh, and that's the 29 Fury kart there that is in trouble out there as well, over the top of Lukey Heights, so that's going to be no favours out there. 28, sorry, of Josh Cohen, who is way down in the championship right now, and he is just finding how difficult it is. He did some very good running in the OSCA Championship for NASCAR style running earlier on in the week. He had a very good run there, but right now he's hoping that he can only turn left. Well, he's got that, but obviously there's some right-handers thrown in as well that makes it a bit tougher.
Down on the pit road, fairly busy pit lane at the moment. Jared McLeod sitting stationary, so too one of the Orbit Drop Bear Motorsport cars in behind him. Go back to our front running Damon Woods, who continues to hold sway. 0.012 the margin at the top of the summit at the moment. Ratway White and Mackay and Wakefield. Good to see Reece Wakefield continuing his consistent form in qualifying. Up to, this was the replay of the Purwin incident. Again, Porsche doing Porsche things. The rear end snaps and sends him spearing into, he collected the tyre wall there, Jake, so it'll be interesting to see if that's damaged the car significantly enough to hamper his progress for the balance of the session.
He'll be worried about that and understanding that he might be at a bit of a disadvantage. 7.5 minutes to go. Gap at the top, 12 thousandths of a second between Damon Woods and Zach Rattray White. And you look at Zach Rattray White and the way he's been going about things, Zach, any other given era, that guy is all conquering and all dominant, but he's round. You know what the problem is? You get the school bully, and then the school bully runs into an even bigger school bully.
Yeah, exactly. Almost fighting to be top dog, if you know where I'm going with that. And there can only be one. And at the moment, yes, Damon Woods is top dog of this series. That fastest lap, 1 minute 26.399. That is scorching pace. Partway through this qualifying session, as we make our way up over Lukey Heights one more time. This is Brock Gilchrist trying to fight his way into the top 20, but he's been shuffled back out to 24th position. As we make our way around through the left-hander, 6:33 left in qualifying. Gilchrist at the moment, about 2.5 tenths off the pace set by Damon Woods, but for that to be the case and for him to still only be down there in 24th goes to show you exactly how tightly stacked and packed this field is. It ended up blowing out to 9 tenths of a second, but still top 24 covered by 9 tenths of a second. Insanely tight margins in this Porsche Pro Invitational Series, Jake. We shouldn't be surprised. We are talking about the best of the best in the business, these drivers, and we've been saying this all season.
Stuart Ellis then looking good, and actually Ryan Jones looked really good in that first sector. He was only a 10th down there on Damon Woods, and if you look at Stuart Ellis's lap there of a 26.8, and that's an improvement to 8th place, I think Ryan Jones, if he gets a good second lap in, is going to have good improvement. Drops 4 tenths though in the middle sector, and that middle sector is where you need all of that turn and brake at the same time. It's where you're going through the medium gears, and so if you're struggling out with that middle sector, that's more of a setup thing to me than the understanding of a driver like Ryan Jones. If he pulls it together, he has definitely got top 10 pace here.
Indeed he does. Let's see what he brings to the table. Getting that toe from the Vermilion entry in front, 128.837. So still well off the pace at the moment, and 29th. Not a fair representation of what he brings to the table, as you were saying. Here's Seth Brown in 17th at the moment. Varying different lines being taken at the top of Lukey Heights as well, depending upon the driver and the commitment and where they're comfortable with placing the car. Different setups, different requirements to wrestle the car over the top of the circuit. Down onto the main straight, here's Seth Brown, 126.399. The benchmark time, and it has been for Damon Woods right throughout the session. Pretty much the first number he put down, or the second number he put down, Jake, it stood the test of time.
standing the test of time, but it still might be taken away late here. So they'll be looking around and seeing, are there late improvements out there? Rick Kuznetsov is down in 13th position. That's certainly not going to be helping him out there. Zach Kerr, I'd love to talk Zach Kerr for the moment because he's struggling out there in qualifying at the moment. Third in the championship here, Mr. Caven, and he's down in 19th position. He crosses the line for an 0.68, so it's an improvement of, get this, 1 spot.
Yeah, not much in it. It's going to be very interesting to see how the tables turn throughout the course of this night. You talk about positions in the championship, you talk about how close everybody is so far in this qualifying session and how likely tight it's going to be when we get out there racing, Jake. Could be a very defining moment, particularly for those guys that are trying to make their claim and make their push to stay in the top half of that leaderboard that will get that automatic free pass, that ticket, that invitation to come and play next season in the Porsche Pro Invitational Series. You mentioned third in the championship. I mean, it's been a great season for Zach Kerr so far, but it's been a season built on just slowly but surely improving with each and every given round, and also capitalising on the misfortune for some of the guys around him. Shepherd up into 5th place. That doesn't make life any easier for Zach Kerr. He stays there 18th. And Sam Muir drops down to 6th. Rick Kuznetsov up to 7th. Byron Pierce, Stephen McCartan, Stuart Ellis, the top 10. There's Benny Pedersen at the moment. Again, a driver that's struggling with the 992.2. And so many of them are feeling exactly what Zach White put on the table a couple of weeks ago. Jake, I won't repeat it, it's too early in the evening, but yes, pretty much a bag of human anatomy, you described it.
Yeah, and that's because he's finding out that when you get into this car and you understand it, there's levels in the Dunning-Bell-Kruger curve, and you start looking around and you're saying, okay, what are you going to find out there to get even better, to get even, running Dunning-Kruger curve, I should say. You're trying to get up to the top, it gets tougher and tougher and tougher to find where that level is. And once you get the third eye opening, so to speak, and you can start flying up the order, that's going to be your big difference maker out there. Remember, this is heat qualifying. They have until the timer stops, and that's it. There's no end of the qualifying session. You can get your last laps in. Josh Perwin up to 14th place as we catch the OG Gear replay. That's the 93 going for a big off there at turn 2. It's one of the toughest corners to get yourself turned in on it, and so one of the Impact Sim Sport drivers then not going to be looking too happy around that. I think that's Harry Lawrence who's gone around for it. Escandaria, best first sector. He's done a 26 flat in the middle sector, which is down currently on what he needs, and now looking to make that push. Remember, he's got to find everything he can and then some to get up to the order. This is his last attempt as he crosses the line. 32.9 puts him on a 26.999, and ultimately for Escandaria, 27 flat it is. He doesn't actually improve, and he remains 16th. But what about Hugo Allen, who has been bounded down the order? 26.7. What a good opening first and second sectors from him. He gets himself to within 3/10 and into the very important area out there of P6 out there. You've got OPR Gamma Flare cars currently 3rd, 4th and 5th, and Jared McLeod is going to be hoping that there's going to be lap time late that is going to see that improvement being found. He's up a 10th in the first sector. He's dropped a tiny bit in the second sector. And as he crosses, it's a 27.1. And it's good enough for 28th spot there for Jared as he comes across the line. You've got, though, still just 25 seconds. And most cars now diving into the pits. Only Hayden Veld out there at the moment is going to be making the push to the line. And maybe Tice Hodge as well. But he's going to be close on the timer to see whether he gets it in or not. Veld will cross to a 27.5, so that won't be an improvement, and Tice Hodge a 27.1 does not improve either. Qualifying then in the books, and my goodness me, he does not miss, does he, Mr. Damon Woods? It doesn't matter if it's an inch or a mile this time. He's got pole position by the slimmest of margins, 12 thousandths of a second, and he has got that in spades. He will have his vulnerable deputy alongside Zach Rattray White for company as Dean Mackay and Reese Wakefield will find themselves then on row 2 of the grid, both for OPR X Gamma Flare Sim Racing. It's 3 in a row for them, because Dylan Shepherd finds himself there in 5th place, engineer by trade, with Hugo Allen there in that 6th place, Sam Muir and Rick Kuznetsov 7th and 8th, with your top 10 rounded out by Byron Pierce and Stefan McCarte, making it 4 OPR Gamma Flare cars inside the top 10. Make it 6 in your top 12 with Stuart Ellis and Miles Burgess on row 6. They've really turned up to the party today, with Ewan Baker there in 13th, the brave heart that he is, and Josh Purwey, great qualifying after struggling quite a bit in qualifying there until the end, up to 14th. Jacob O'Reilly and Sebastian Eskandari then find themselves on row 8 of the grid, with your top 18 being rounded out by Danny Davison of Team Max Boost, just behind his former teammate, and Seth Brown there in 18th spot. Ryan Jones would have had top 10 pace for DPR Racing. He can only manage 19th, with Lachlan Capel making up your top 20 in the field. Still only 0.6 of a second off in qualifying. That would have been enough for a top 5 start in certain places, with Tice Hodge and Marina Morella currently on row 11. Zach Kerr is the big story of qualifying. He's all the way down in 23rd position, as Jackson Raihana is there for company in that 24th spot. Then you've got Harry Lawrence, the man on the outside looking in for Impact Sims by Racers. He'll go from that 25th position, with Hayden Veld in 26th at 7/10 adrift. You then have yourself Lewis Greathead and Jared McLeod. They will be in the 14th row, with Ben Pedersen in 29th. And late on, all of those times, absolutely marauding by Brock Gilchrist. I thought he would have been nailed on for a good run. The Momentum Racing number 10 on the bubble will have to go from 30th place tonight. Sam Chapman and Zach Hanlin are going to be on your 16th row of the grid for Vermilion Esports and BM Plus, as you've got the likes then of Luke Swan and Pat Klein. They will be there on row 17. There's an issue for the break then for Scott Rankin. His Club Sport 3 pedals, he's struggling to get consistent pressure between 0% and 10% out there, and so he's struggling to get the trail braking going there. So he's in that 36th spot with Pat Klein just in front. And then you got there, of course, Simon Mesamo there in 37th, as he will be piloted alongside the safety car there in terms of how they grid on up, with all the race directors and race control members all out there in the simulator as well. Zach Caban, I can hear you down there on the grid, and you've got a lot to go and work with and talk to on your grid walk.
Indeed, I do. Thank you, Jake. Hello once more, everybody. Couple of key takeaways out of that session. You may have noticed, ladies and gentlemen, first to 10th, about 0.42 of a second, and then about half a second separating the next 25 cars. In total, first to 35th, 0.9 of a second. Just extraordinarily tight margins in that qualifying session. Two guys in the thick of it at the moment, a Reese Wakefield and also Sebastian Eskandari. I think we'll start with Sebastian, actually, because he's the talk of the town at the moment. If we can drag him in, we'll have a chat with the newest recruit for the Logitech G Orbit Drop Bear Motorsport stable. Seb, mate, good evening to you. Welcome back to the grid. We know you've been off chasing real-world exploits in Europe, but the big news in the last couple of rounds is that you've walked out of the Team Max Boost stable straight across the paddock into the Logitech G Orbit Drop Bear Motorsport stable. Seismic shift for you, but a tremendous vote of confidence from them to recruit you mid-season, knowing what you're very well and truly capable of bringing to the table.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed my time at Max Boost, and I'd like to thank them all for all the help they've given me and all the stuff they've taught me. But I felt like I didn't really belong there at the end, and Orbit Drop Bear they were really kind to me, and they just sort of opened it up for me, and I just sort of joined, and then just sort of making myself at home for the past week, and then first real race for them is today, so hopefully make them proud.
And what a stage to do it on as well, mate. Phillip Island, the Moza Racing Porsche Pro Invitational Series. We know full well what you bring to the table when it comes to Porsche racing. We've seen you in the thick of it in the past. How do you feel about your chances here tonight, and where do you sit with regards to the qualifying result just now, mate? 16th, we just mentioned, first through 35th, 0.94 of a second. Is that a pass mark or a fail mark on your part?
Well, obviously everyone wants to be on pole, but I think Damon and Zach, they're all just in a league of their own this season, so it's going to be hard to get that. And I haven't been strong in qualifying throughout this season, as I'm sure you've seen. So I sort of just use that. I just get wherever I can, and then in the races, climb my way back up.
How are you finding the car to drive at the moment? This will be the second to last question for you, because then we'll have a quick chat to Reece Wakefield. How are you finding the car to drive at the moment, knowing that you're in and out, you're going across the other side of the world, racing real world cars, testing, etc.? How are you finding the 992.2? Because there's been very mixed reviews right across the board.
I mean, it's an interesting car. Like ABS and TC, it's like all the aids. It's what an everyday person uses in the car, but it makes for some interesting racing with the slipstream and everything. But yeah, I've always liked it. I'm not sure what other people think of it, but I generally think it's quite a good car.
Where are the goalposts for tonight, mate, or does it very much hinge upon whether or not you can get yourself into that invert top 10 for race 2?
Exactly. I just got to survive. This track's going to be mayhem, so I just got to survive and hopefully call myself into the top 10.
Brilliant word for it, mate. Mayhem. I reckon there's plenty of that on the way. There has been throughout the course of the season. Why should tonight be any different? Thanks for stopping on by for a quick chat, mate. Go well. We wish you and the Logitech Orbit Drop Air Motorsport boys the best of luck for the balance of the season.
Thank you.
And someone that hasn't shifted gears or teams between rounds, we're going to catch up with from position number 4 is the one and the only Reece Wakefield. And it's been an interesting season up and down for you, mate, but slowly but surely creeping your way up the points table and putting yourself in the best position to potentially do so again tonight. 4th in qualifying, big effort.
Yeah, thanks for that. The last year, obviously, the first couple of rounds of the season weren't too great for me personally or a couple of the boys in the team, but these last couple of rounds we've really been making big strides behind the scenes just to try and really put it up the front with ZRW and Damon. Obviously they're both pretty quick, so we're just trying to do our best to match them, and I mean P3, 4 and 5 for the team's a pretty good start.
It's not lost on anybody. Qualifying has been one of your real strengths. We just heard from Sebastian that, it might be a little bit of a weakness in his long game. But as far as your round by round results are concerned, qualifying has been a strong point. But still, those two remain the benchmark. And then you've got Dean Mackay to share the second row with, mate. And he's come on leaps and bounds as well.
Yeah, 100%. I think at OPR, picking up Dean was huge for all of us. He's rapid behind the wheel and he brings a lot of knowledge too. So, and having, 2 OPR cars surrounding me on the starting grid, I can feel pretty safe that I'm not getting shunted into turn 1. So, fingers crossed anyway. But no, it's a good starting position for us. There's still 16 laps of a race, so it's not over until it's over. So we'll see where we end up at the end.
I've got next to nothing left in time here to have a chat with you. As you can see, race start 80 seconds away. So, quick one. What's the key to converting your qualifying pace into an overall race package in the hope of being able to go with Damon and Zach in the long run here?
I think it's just hitting my marks, hitting everything that I've already practiced 1,000 times before tonight, and just making sure that I don't get caught up in any silly incidents with my teammates preferably, but it's just converting and just trying to stick with either Dean or try and even get the bye if I can. But I think it's just consistency tonight is what I'm aiming to do.
All right, very nicely done, Reece. Go and get him, mate. Good luck. Thanks for stopping on by.
Thanks for having me.
Jake, the great Barry Sheen once referred to this place as the gateway to hypothermia. I think tonight it's the gateway to all sorts of madness and carnage and chaos. I love the use of the word mayhem by Sebastian Eskandari. I wanted to have a chat to Reece Wakefield, though, at a later point in time. The fact that he's sitting 12th at the moment in this points race, he's only 30 points away from Miles Burgess in 9th. Just how difficult it's going to be to get those 30 points clawed back in his favour. That's the sort of razor-thin margins we're talking about in this championship at the moment. Stand by for race 1.
Absolutely, and it's the key of you've got to keep yourself steady. Track temp has just warmed up to about 26 degrees, so it's a little bit warmer than what it was before. Damon Woods has got the pole position. Zach Rattray-White will want to challenge him on this slight uphill run towards the jump start! Jump start from Zach Rattray-White. He just goes, he bolts away. Immediately we get underway. The Cardinal see it's committed off of the very get-go. Zach Rattray-White will have a big drive-through penalty.
That's enormous. Think back to 1997, Sydney Motorsport Park.
Trouble Mackay into the back of Damon Woods, and he goes spearing straight on at turn one. They all managed to hold another car in trouble. Wakefield, what's the rejoin? Bang! Huge accident out there. That's going to take 4 or 5 cars out of contention.
Had to see that one coming. Had to see that one coming. It's a parking lot at the Southern Loop as they make their way through. Zach Rattray-White, a huge jump start. The Cardinal sinners, Jake said. Now we get to Miller Corner. They're 4 wide there trying to sort themselves out, and that's never going to work. They somehow got away with it, but someone had to yield and be balked and compromised on the way through. The Vermilion entries in the gravel. There's the 75 also off the road. It's absolute bedlam and pandemonium on the opening lap.
Yeah, they've all got to try and get through. Ryan Jones there, Jacob O'Reilly, Danny Davison struggling to get himself turned around. So a disastrous start then for many. Over the top of Lukey Heights we go and down into MG, and there's going to be more biffo down the inside there as Seth Brown gets a little bit physical with Josh Purwey in there. Try and move through, and Purwey gives him a shot back through turn 11, very unhappy about it. Now it gives Ewan Baker the chance to move to the inside. Right, try and count your chickens now in terms of where they go. In comes Zach Rattray-White for the drive-through penalty. So David Woods will be leading. Nuno Allen sixth on the grid up to second. Dylan Shepherd finds himself in third. And then it's Samuel and Richards next up in, which makes up your top 5. What a crazy start to heat racing action.
Well, if Zach Rattray-White's championship aspirations weren't completely and utterly dashed beforehand, Jake, they most certainly are now. That is going to be a long night behind the wheel for him. There's the jump start on the OG Gear replay. It was a good 5 seconds ahead of anybody else. Off he went, and then cue the bedlam that unfolded behind him. Let's watch the replay here of the OPR entries getting stuck at turn 1 at Doohan Corner. Bang. So easily happens into the grass. The rejoin down here, I dare say, will be something that Race Control want to review as well. Bang.
It's poor. I know it's difficult to slow it down on the grass, but that's poor out there to try and get that back. You know you've got cars on the right-hand side. It just takes a little bit of sight to look over your right mirror to say, look, I might have to just go around the marshal's post and get myself back around that way. Very tough to deal with for those drivers who would have felt very unhappy in the mid to late pack there, getting sideswiped in that manner. But we still continue on here, though, with racing action. Critically, through all of that bedlam here, Zach, no caution because no car had significant enough damage to stop.
And that's a very good thing, not necessarily for those competitors, but it certainly is for us and the race at large. Gets the opportunity for it to play out a little bit more naturally without that deployment of the safety car and bunching the field up. Damon Woods, the fastest lap of the race, and that is a free pass for him. 1.1 seconds to good on Hugo Allen. We ride on board with Stephen McCartan, who rides 6th at the moment, chasing Sam Muir, Reece Wakefield in behind, and then Stuart Ellis, Seth Brown, Ewan Baker currently holding onto the invert pole in 10th position. And that would be, I think that would be as far up as Ewan Baker's managed to start an invert race this season, if he can hold on to 10th right now. Damon Woods, however, 1.1, 1.2 to the good. Can't say we're surprised. You heard Reece Wakefield say, as we were talking pre-race, just how dominant those two have been, and the difference has been that they've been able to do it consistently, lap after lap, lap in, lap out, race in, race out, all season long. Obviously, big trip up for Zach Rattray-White tonight, and this was a bit of a check-up and trip up as well.
Yeah, so Eskandari's in the middle of all of this, trying to fight his way through. There's contact with Jacob O'Reilly. Danny Davison just goes off on his own accord and starts spinning it around in the gravel. And Ryan Jones also catching contact in the middle. Dean Mackay has stayed in pit lane. He has not come back out again, but he has been given a stop and hold penalty if he is to come back out again for that unsafe rejoin. Guess which car he hit as he went back on the rejoin, Zach? He hit Zach Kerr, third in the championship.
Yeah, and again, you were talking about the importance of Zach Kerr. He can put that back down to qualifying, can't he? Had he been able to put a better number on the board, maybe get his way further up the roster.
Big off turn one pack line. In the
Klein
gravel.
goes spearing through the gravel.
9.5 car, all shades of off, trying to drive it out and away again. It's so loaded when you go through the opening corner, and more than any other place, I think these cars show how tough it is. You think, oh, it's just a corner you lightly lifting formula. He's just on the back and gets a massive bucket load of dirty air, and the car just swaps on him.
Yeah, and what about the three cars immediately ahead of him that were all arguing over the same piece of real estate? But they had two wheels in the grass as they were doing it. Trouble! There he goes, Sam Chapman. But 101 is pointing the wrong way on the run to Siberia. And that's a weird place for him to trip up and come unstuck.
He's had a bit of help there from Ben Pedersen on the outside. They were going pretty much tete-a-tete, door-to-door against each other. And, you look here, look at Pedersen. He just catches there the AstroTurf on the outside, and that spears him off to the right. And unfortunately for Sam Chapman, there's nothing he can do about that. That happened quicker than a whisper.
Good indeed. There's Reece Wakefield on screen now as they make their way down the main straight. David Woods, Hugo Owen, Dylan Shepherd, Rick Kuznetsov, Sam Newell, the top five will pick up Hayden Bell. You mentioned him earlier, Jake, another guy that brings plenty of pace to the table, hasn't had the fair run of the mill as far as the championship is concerned, as reflected by the fact that he's hovering well outside the top 20, but inside the top 30 at the moment. Is there still enough time for him to make his way up the rostrum with 5 rounds to go and get himself into the top 20 to get that automatic ticket for next season? Well, watch this space. We're going to find out together. There's Reece Wakefield riding on board, very deep into Miller Corner, and trying to get the run on Stephen McCartan on the exit, who's lost contact with Sam Muir.
It's the group
Lap
of
5
three
16.
OPR Gamma. Yeah, it's 3 OPR Gamma-Fleck cars who fly themselves together. Ellis there just behind, then Seth Brown, Baker, Burley and Burgess, Escandari up 3 spots, then into 13. Big goal here. Currently Ewan Baker holds that at the moment. It gives you chance for that invert for that second race here on lap 5. There is Simon Mesamo, who's chatting over in YouTube chat land, Zach, saying, well, I've still got room to fall. I thought I was washed up years ago in terms of my sim racing talent, but he's doing quite good at the moment here in 30th position. He's moving all around. He's looking through the crowd, and he can feel it on the winds of the air.
Indeed he can. Good to see Simon Mesamo out there riding on board with him on the right-hand side of the screen. There you were a few moments ago. Back now to Zach Hanlon, who's under pressure there from Jared McLeod and Ben Pedersen. Those guys arguing over 21st, Jake, and just look at it. It's a sea of traffic ahead of them. It's just freight train stuff at the moment. Very hard for these guys to try and make any ground moving their way forward. It's easier to drop back in the order at this particular point in time. Damon Woods' lead has opened up to 1.7 seconds, so it's going out about 0.2 of a second per lap right now. And Zach Hanlon for BM Plus sitting there 21st. Next target, Lewis Greathead, but the margin already over beyond a second, and it's very difficult. He's under pressure there on the outside behind him. You got Jared McLeod and Benny Pedersen trying to put the pressure on him. Couldn't find a way through. It's difficult once you lose that toe ability, that slipstream effect. That deficit is about a second. You've got some sort of happy medium there. If you are beyond a second behind the car in front, Jake, good luck. You've got to do it on your own merit.
Byron Pierce has just been handed a 15-second time penalty that will be applied post-race for contact with Ryan Jones on the opening lap at Siberia Corner. Baker is in this group. Byron Pierce is just behind that in 14th spot, so that's going to really hurt. But for the moment, Josh Perwin having a lovely drive at the moment, but he's got to get by Braveheart here. Ewan Baker here, the Scot, holding his ground very nicely as he climbs over the crest and into Doohan Corner off the Gardner Straight.
And again, just behind them at the moment, Pierce has got through on Eskandari, but he's got that penalty hovering over his head. So all of that will be amended post-race for those of you that are tuning in. Post-broadcast tonight, all those penalties will be applied, and that'll be reflected in the official results that hit the Porsche Pro Invitational Series website in the days ahead. Ewan Baker, Josh Perwin point to the margin at the moment, but no one in a position to lunge down the inside and have a crack at this particular point. Good to see Jake. We've made it almost a half race distance without the need for the safety car to be called upon. Although that being said, I think Hugo Allen and Dylan Shepherd would welcome it because it would give them a free kick and a crack at Damon Woods. Not that I think Damon Woods is going to be stoppable at this particular point in time. If it wasn't already one hand on the championship, it certainly is now. Can we see? This is Ewan Baker and Josh Purr, and this battle is of particular interest as they make their way down to MG, because Baker's holding on to the invert pole at the moment. It's no secret that Purwin would want to get his hands on it.
He very much would. This would be the way that Josh Purwin would love to kick back out his season, because Josh Purwin sits in the championship 40th on 328 points. If he can start a race from pole position, he'll be very, very happy. Ewan Baker himself needs these. He's 22nd in the championship. He's 20 points shy of Brock Gilchrist, and he could really do with these points, as that's going to be wide there through turn one. Where are you going, Miles Burgess? Byron Pearce is now going to have a little bit of a sniff about here through the southern loop, tries to get his nose to the inside, but you see a lot at turn two, the southern loop, as Pearce catches a wiggle, the diamonded line to get the drive off the exit.
And it's important to nail that drive off the exit of the southern loop to set yourself up, to not be vulnerable at MG. Down the inside, no. Had to pull it up. Sebastian Eskandari under pressure from Tice Hodge at the moment. Lachlan Capel's in there as well. Ho-ho! Capel trying to find a way through, but the door closed firmly by Hodge, who nearly got into Eskandari. In fact, there was a serious amount of net code going on there for a moment. And we've got a replay coming courtesy of OG Gear of Ryan Jones, Sperry. Let's have a look at this. This is coming up towards Siberia.
Yep, so he gets down the inside, and then the door just gets slammed in his face there, and that's 15 seconds. In terms of trying to get that move, it would be declared as a fair move to go through. Now, Eskandari stuck on the wrong side, Capel stuck on the wrong side there. So this is going to be Marina Morella, who's been a little bit down the order in qualifying himself, trying to get the move. And look at it, they're leaning against each other. Anything more on the right-hand side, Morella would have been turned across the panel. Now the slipstream comes into play, and here comes Hayden Veld to the party, wanting to get himself close up in at this stage, working through the opening corner and in towards the southern loop then here at turn number 2, already into the second half of this race. And I'll tell you what, it's not calming down here. None of this is calming down. McLeod, Pedersen, Lawford, all there together.
And that's just the nature of the beast when it comes to racing at Phillip Island. It is relentless, it is intense, it is full tilt from first until last. The pace, the intensity, the aggression that's being shown here. And all with a view to, A, setting yourself up for race 2, but then also setting yourself up with a view to the fact that this is the 5th last round of the championship. We arrive here tonight with only 11 races to go in the season. Some of these guys are looking at their position in the series, knowing full well that every result matters from this point forward to compensate what might have been, in their belief, a lacklustre first half of the season. Angus Lawford sitting there in 24th position at the moment. He's got a full mirror of Brock Gilchrist and Jacob O'Reilly immediately behind him. He's got Jared McLeod and Ben Pedersen just ahead of him. I reckon Gilchrist wanted to have a look there on the inside, but the door was closed, and Lawford sets himself up for a run down the Gardner Straight. McLeod and Pedersen, his next target. Have a look at this. Oh, McLeod. Try to get down on the inside.
Yeah, how often do you see a move attempt at the final corner and not after it there? That was a little bit too aggressive in my book, as McLeod's gone for the move. Burge is still there in 12th. Here comes the look down the inside at turn 1, and it's close. Pedersen just puts the phasers on through the middle of the corner and says, look, I'm going to hold on to it. Lawford doesn't know where to go. Neither does Brock Gilchrist, who's up 5 spots here in this race. But it's that level of, I'm going to be aggressive off the road then. Goes Jared McLeod, there goes 1, there goes 2. You can't jump off the road here, because if you do, everybody goes by here. It's not a case that you can gather it up and get away with it.
Exactly right. But Pedersen knew full well that he could commit around the outside at 1, put himself on the inside of the racing line for 2 for the southern loop. Very nicely done. Lawford settled for 23rd at the moment. Gilchrist is 24th. McLeod back to 25th. So that has hurt him in the long run. Makes the road back even more difficult when we get to race 2. And everyone will be mindful, Jake, as well, when we get to race 2, just how messy that first lap was in race 1, and being very alert about the potential for a repeat of that. They'd be hoping not, but we'll wait and see. There's the guy that's going to have traffic in front of him all night long from this point forward. He's managed to make it to the back of the train. Zach Ratway White, Benny Davison, Sam Chapman, the next target, but he'll be ruining that jump start for a long while yet.
Yeah, and he did the right thing on that jump start here, because if you jump by an inch, you may as well just go. And someone was saying, look, this is going to be a style of jump start where you go, oh, I'm just going to run away. It's almost like Mr. Bean's decided he wants to join a race. It's like, oh, I'm winning. It's not how that's going to work for him, so he's back there in 33rd. Big penalties coming in. Okay, so you've got Seth Brown. He's got 5 seconds right now. He's currently 9th after his contact with Josh Perwin on the opening lap. That's going to put him, in terms of where he's scoring his points here, Seth, today, way down the order, outside potentially the top 15 towards the top 20. But more importantly than that, out there at this moment in time, is the fact that Hugo Allen has 5 seconds of time penalty in contact with Reese Wakefield on the opening lap. There is Reese at this moment in time, realising he's still got a race here in 6th.
Indeed, and Sam Muir, his next target. Muir doing a very nice job holding sway there in 5th. Rick Kuznetsov's also been impressive, having jumped up 4 spots in this race so far. We'll get to the biggest movers and shakers of this race shortly, I'm sure, as we make our way around onto the main straight now. Muir setting himself up nicely for the run down the main straight towards Doohan Corner, trying to keep Wakefield at bay, and that seems to be working for him for the moment. Damon Woods, meanwhile, Jake, out to 2.2 seconds, the advantage now on Hugo Allen, and you can just about sign, seal and deliver the opening race of the night to the championship leader.
Looks that way, doesn't it? Damon Woods just doesn't make mistakes, and this is his favourite circuit to go out there and running. I do want to go back to what Gilchrist for a moment. I've just had information come in from the Momentum Racing team that he's running a throwback Need for Speed livery out there today from the original Need for Speed. There's a look at it. Look how popping that is.
Oh, we love nostalgia here, don't we? We saw plenty of it in the Supercar 1000 a couple of weeks ago. A couple of throwback retro-inspired liveries. But to go and have a look at some gaming nostalgia retrospectively, I love the chemistry, the symmetry there with that. There's the move on the inside. Now, this battle had been brewing for a while. The hip and shoulder gets a little bit nasty. The 59 goes spearing through the grass, back onto the racetrack now, as they make their way around to complete what was lap number lap 11. We're on lap 12. There will be 4 to go this time by the line. There's Wakefield again, chasing Muir through. We pick up Ewan Baker, still holding on to 10th. He's been sitting there for a long time on the bubble, Jake. He's only got 4 laps left in which to hold on to an invert pole.
Ben Pedersen gets 15 seconds worth of penalty for his hit with Sam Chapman. So another driver getting caught up. But Ewan Baker, he's got to try and hold on here. He's got Seth Brown just in front, and he knows he's got penalty points. So he's effectively getting 9th place point at least here tonight in this first race. But he still has to be very wary here about Josh Perwin. He still has to worry about Miles Burgess, Byron Pierce, Eskandari, Hodge, and Lachlan Cable. All of them could find a way through if you're not paying attention here in this battle on for 9th. Through Casey Stoner's corner, into Jack Miller's corner here at turn 4, holding his ground very nicely. But the key's going to be, how do you drive out of this corner and into this secondary switchback hairpin here of Siberia, because this is not an easy section of the circuit.
No, this is probably one of the more technical and more challenging elements of the racetrack. I mean, the whole thing's a challenge, as you've seen throughout the course of the night, but just in terms of corner speed, exit, not tripping up, not making a rod for your own back, Siberia happens to be one of those critical pinch points of the 4.448 kilometres around here at the Phillip Island Grand Prix circuit. Just by the way, that OG Gear replay, I knew it was a Logitech Orbit Drop Their Motorsport car. It was our good mate, our dear commentary colleague and pal, Scott Rankin. And just to give you an indication, they were arguing over 29th, 30th and 31st at that particular point in time, Jake. So no holds barred in the Moza Racing Pro Invitational for the Porsches. And that is a brilliant move on the inside. Commitment plus onto the main straight for the second time. Right hand, it's gone! This is going to be big! Bang! Into the wall!
on the inside. Harry Lawrence gets 5 seconds of penalty, but Hanlon would have been really scared to go side by side, and there's not much he could do. A little bit of contact there with Brock Gilchrist, the man on the bubble, and what really didn't help in that instant was the fact that Brock Gilchrist at the moment of contact blinked.
Oh, really unlucky, and that adds insult to injury for Zach there. He's managed to resume, but he's now in 29th. He's right in front of Zach Ruttway-White and Scott Rankin. So not, and also Zach Kerr. You mentioned last time out all the Zachs around the place. Zach Kerr, Zach Hanlon and Zach Ruttway-White follow one another, 28th, 29th and 30th on the racetrack, Jake. My goodness, the overtake here onto the main straight. Perwin got it all crossed up and out of shape. And that made him vulnerable on the run to one with the OPR entry down on the inside. In fact, goes to the outside. Why not? Miles Burgess, what about that?
Well, can't confirm the move at one. If I go around the outside here, I've got the inside at the southern loop off the Dillon corner. That's a lovely pass by Miles Burgess, but critically, it's given Ewan Baker gap. And he needs this gap with just 2 laps to go. He's probably looking at Seth Brown going, come on, let's push. These 27.7s are going to be enough for me to hold my ground and placement here, and they will know just how important it's been, and there's been a lot of important drives here in this race. And I think the quietest one that we've got to give praise to is the guy in 5th place here, Sam Muir. What a day he's had.
Indeed he has. It's been a fantastic performance so far. This is Jacob O'Reilly running it through the grass on the run down the main straight. That'll make him vulnerable to the 2 cars that have gone around his outside, one of which was the DPR Racing entry. And then on the inside, oh geez, hold your breath there. And more trouble at 1 because they're both in the grass. But they managed to get away with it somehow. There's been a lot of those almost moments in this race, Jake, and I dare say we're going to see more in the second. Oh, my goodness. Look at this. Perwin and Pearce up over the top at Lukey Heights.
Move made by Byron Pearce, gets him up the order now into 12th, just before the penalty starts kicking in of the 5 seconds, the 15 seconds that he is going to be sat on. White flag now starts then as Barney waves it from the gantry on the far side here for Damon Woods, and the lead he's got of 3.5 seconds over Hugo Allen at this moment for auto moves. Dylan Shepherd finds himself in 3rd, but the chase very much on then here for 9th and 10th between Ewan Baker and Seth Brown. Nothing silly, boys, and you're going to find yourself with exactly what you want. Big scraps then in the mid-pack on the front stretch. Ryan Jones with a big launch then against Ben Pedersen, who's there on the inside and just getting marauded around through the opening corner. Luke Swan wants in. So too here, Jacob O'Reilly, Jared McLeod, Angus Lawford. They're not done. They're all looking for ways to say, can we profiteer up, gain an extra position, gain some extra points. That's a massive wiggle there from Jacob O'Reilly. And he's gone every which way trying to save that. Back steps out and somehow, some way, he finds terra firma again after being chucked overboard. What a lucky escape that was. Great car control to hold that all together, to say, hey, look, I'm doing just what I need. There is a look then as he gets himself back around, but we've got to go all the way to the final corner, because this man, well, he goes along with death and taxes because he is the 3rd option. He's undeniable out there in this racing. Damon Woods wins at an absolute canter.
He's a certainty in this caper at the moment. Oh, limping to the line. That was Hugo Allen. Hugo Allen's out of fuel on the run to the line, and Dylan Shepherd goes 2nd. That's his best finish of the season as well. Hugo Allen has been snatched of 2nd position right with the finish line in view. Can you believe that?
Well, that's going to cost him more because, remember, he's got the 5-second time penalty. And by my measure, he's going to fall back to 7th place with that. He would have been safe for at least the top 5 had he had the fuel to get there. That is a big mistake on the part of Hugo Allen and the Auto Moves team. They should have got the numbers calculated, and it's not the first time I've seen Porsches at Phillip Island miscalculate the numbers. I saw it in the Porsche Esports Super Cup out there with the NL Racing team. So it's not a new concept out there running out of fuel at Phillip Island, but it is certainly a huge blunder for Hugo Allen in the 777 car. We'll get confirmation of result then up on your screen, because it was a huge day for Damon Woods. He had that one as easy as he possibly would have liked, as he takes a winning time of 23 minutes and 19 seconds. He wins by 6 over Dylan Shepherd, with Hugo Allen running out of fuel ahead of Rick Kuznetsov, Sam Muir, and Reese Wakefield there in 6th position. It's then Stefan McCartan and Stuart Ellis making up the top 8, with Seth Brown in 9th and Ewan Baker rounding out your top 10 in the field. Miles Burgess finds himself then in 11th place, with Byron Pierce and Josh Perwin 12th and 13th. And Sebastian Eskandari will end up in a 14th place finish, a gain of 2 for his troubles today. Tice Hodge then would gain 6 as he finishes in 15th, ahead of Lachlan Capel and Marino Morella, as Hayden Veld, Jackson Raihana and Lewis Greathead would round out your top 20 in this race. Brock Gilchrist, the man who is 20th in the championship, finishes 21st, but does have penalty in the pocket to go and work with, which includes 5 seconds worth of it for the contact he had with Zach Hanlin. Ryan Jones then and Ben Pedersen, 22nd and 23rd. Luke Swan then ahead of Jared McLeod, Angus Lawford, and Zach Kerr, who was put together in the opening instance. Zach Rattray White with the largest jump start I think you'll ever see in sim racing out there. And then Zachary Hanlin there in 29th, ahead of Scott Rankin, who was beaten around by pillar to post out there in that race. You then had Sam Chapman and Harry Lawrence, 31st and 32nd, with Danny Davidson, Jacob O'Reilly, Pat Klein there in 35th position, with Simon Mesamo, and then Dean Mackay, a retiree after the worst rejoin I think we have seen in a very long time. But Zach, key's going to be that first race absolutely shook everybody up from the opening lap.
Just before we get to that point, let's watch the moment in which it all went terribly wrong for Hugo Allen coming round onto the main straights. The fuel will let go on him there, and he's limping it down towards the line in 5th gear, and he's getting gobbled up. So he was clearly trying to save around the final sector, and yes, coughing and spluttering across the line. I think we also need to acknowledge a couple of points here. In something of a rarity, we've managed to go through a 70-kilometre race without a caution, without a safety car. I mean, it happened at Le Mans because we weren't going to deploy the safety car for a 13.5-kilometre lap. There was no way we were going to sit through that, ladies and gentlemen. And then secondly, we didn't see the safety car at Mount Panorama, but that was only a 40-kilometre race. So that might be one of the first sprint races we've seen all season at 70 kilometres in length in which we haven't seen the safety car deployed. So well done to all and sundry. Yeah, fair bit of hip and shoulder on that opening lap, and Race Control still writing out invoices for that one. The checkbook, I think they might need to top up the paper there for the second race. But that was that's one of the more entertaining races I think we've seen throughout the course of the season. The fact that it was allowed to ebb and flow naturally was magnificent. Zach Ratway White will live to rue that invoice that he copped, self-inflicted with that jump start on the opening lap. It cost him about 26 spots in the end, ladies and gentlemen, when you look at the finishing order. And the good news, Jake, we up the lap count by 7 for this next race. We'll go 23 laps, 102.304 kilometres, and a reverse top 10 invert once more. And that promises to be tantalising and breathtaking in every sense of the word. It's been captivating and compelling right throughout the course of this season, the Porsche Pro Invitational. But right here and now, you saw how difficult some of these guys found overtaking in the first race. Ramp that up a little bit in the second, because you've got Damon Woods trying to come through from 10th to sweep the night for the second time this season. You've got Dylan Shepherd there. You've got Hugo Allen eager to seek redemption on the back of that disappointment with the fuel cough, with the finish line in view. Plus, you've got a whole host of guys, Zach Ratway White most specifically, trying to fight their way back in and salvage something out of the night. And, I mean, we mentioned earlier in the qualifying session, the likes of Hugo Allen, Hayden Veld, Lachlan Capel, Simon Mesamo, all those guys that you'd normally expect a bit more from, they're sitting well outside the bubble at the moment. And we highlighted the bubble earlier. Brock Gilchrist in 20th, 670 points. He's got 4 points to play with coming into tonight over Harry Lawrence, 666, and Ewan Baker, 650. So for Baker, that's a great result there, the fact that he's been able to bag a top 15 finish. Jack Vittis, 615. Zach Hanlon, 587. So that's costly for Zach. And you start to look at those numbers and the fact that Hanlon was 79 points behind Lawrence, and you already start to acknowledge just how hard it is going to be for the guys that are closest to being on the inside, the right side of the bubble, just how hard it's going to be for them to fight their way in there, Jake. The ship's almost sailed, mate.
And we're already sailing into this second race. Eskandari, by the way,
Yes.
has been given 5 seconds of time penalty for his contact with Tice Hodge on lap 8. So that's more to it than that. Damon Woods will have to go from 10th spot because Ewan Baker is on the pole position for this race, with Seth Brown and Stuart Ellis then alongside for that company in 2nd and 3rd. There is the Synergy Sim Racing driver in control. Stuart Ellis in 3rd and Stefan McCartan then in 4th position. Once again, back-to-back races where OPR Gamma Flare are 3rd, 4th and 5th on the grid. Hopefully it's a bit easier for them this time, with Sam Muir in 6th position and Rick Kuznetsov going from 7th. Hugo Allen will get an extra place to work from after running out of fuel. He'll start this one from 8th and probably put an extra 5 litres in. Mark my words on that, with Dylan Shepherd 9th and Damon Woods rounding out your top 10. It's then Miles Burgess and Byron Pierce who'll go from row 6, with Josh Perwin starting this one in 13th and the 44 of Sebastian Eskandari there in 14th spot for Logitech G ODBM. You then got Vermilion Esports' Tice Hodge, along with Lachlan Capel there in that 16th spot, Marina Morella and Hayden Velden, all eclipsed 9th row of the grid. Your top 20 will be rounded out by Jackson Raihana and Lewis Greathead there for Summit and Vermilion, as Brock Gilchrist there in the Need for Speed livery has Ryan Jones there in 22nd. Then Ben Pedersen and Luke Swan there on row 12 of the grid, with the likes then of Jared McLeod in 25th and Angus Lawford then in 26th position. Then you get yourself to the Zach pack here, with Zach Kerr and Zach Rattray White directly next to each other and taking points off each other in the championship. Zach Hanlon and Scott Rankin 29th and 30th. And you look around, Sam Chapman, Harry Lawrence on row 16, with Danny Davidson and Jacob O'Reilly just behind that for Max Boost and for Vermilion. You then got Pat Klein and Simon Mesamo, as Dean Mackay will be going from 37th position out there on the grid. Now, I'm looking at the championship here. This is a lovely free kick here, very quickly, for the likes of Rick Kuznetsov out there to be scoring. I think he's the only one who's profiteered off of that.
Absolutely. In relation to Zach Ratway White's black flag and drive-through penalty, yeah, absolutely. Rick Kuznetsov, but still, he came into the round 113 points off Zach Kerr. So, I mean, he wasn't going to be able to redeem all of that in the opening race, but he's put himself in the best possible position to do so over the course of the night, depending very much upon how he works his way through in this invert grid situation. Top 10 invert, Ewan Baker. I think it's his first invert pole of the season, Jake. Seth Brown alongside him. Keep your eyes on Stewie Ellis. He'll be keen to lead early if he can find a clear way through.
Well, that's what he wants, a clear way through to get this start sorted, and they're going to be very, very alert to where this line is going to be set for them on this lumpy, bumpy Gardner Straight and over towards Doohan Corner, turn 1 out on circuit. We've got 23 laps here, and they know how important it is to get themselves on the picture-perfect mark. Ewan Baker will lead them off. No start at all offered from Reece Wakefield. He was completely caught out on it. Massive block being thrown at the front of the field. Now as here comes Seth Brown to the outside, looking for a way to get himself up. Absolutely swarmed off the start there was Reece Wakefield as they go into the southern loop then for the first time out there. And it is critically Seth Brown who's got the start he wants to dream as they work through the long left-hander, looking to get to Casey Stoner. There's a little bit of contact in the middle as Eskandari Perwin 3 wide.
Clean. Most important to note, clean. And I think we were holding our breath for them to run to turn 1 just to see if we were going to be able to get through there unscathed. So far, so good. But the bottleneck awaits for them here at at Miller Corner. MG, of course, will also be another pinch point in this opening lap. Hip and shoulder further back. Benny Pedersen, I reckon, got the rough end of the stick there. through they go. First time, cleanly. Purwin up into 12th spot. Pierce
Norfolk's in trouble.
is 10th and Burgess 11th at the moment. There is Damon Woods trying to fight his way back through. He's already up to 6th.
Angus Lawford tipped out then in at the early stages, and that was at Siberia. They all fan out and try and get moves, and there's contact then between the two OPR Gamma Flare cars, and it creates a massive hip and shoulder moment there for Hugo Allen, who gets dumped out the tune of 4 places as he gets shuffled out across. Disaster off the exit of MG, and that all coming together through McCartan and Ellis and Damon Woods. Well, we talk about how much he loves this place here. He is having an absolutely wonderful day at the office. Look at Damon Woods. We've got to look at Damon Woods because he's now going through Stuart Ellis in one lap and 1 corner. He is 3rd.
7 spots in a little on 5 kilometres. Not bad. There's Brown and Baker side by side through the southern loop on the 2nd lap. That's a really good conversion off the line from Seth Brown. How long can he lead this for? I think Damon Woods has him firmly in his sights. It's just a matter of how quickly he can work his way through. And if they keep going 2 by 2 as they have been for much of this opening lap and a half, it'll make the task for Woods slightly more difficult, but he's made easy light work in the first 7. 2 to go to get himself back to clear air.
And look at this, as far as they go, there's a lot to look at here as well off at the start of this race. And this is the start that we look at here. So he hasn't selected a gear, he's got to put it in gear. That is a huge mistake.
Not as bad as the black flag drive-through penalty that Zach White copped earlier in the night, but yes, the second cardinal sin on the grid that we've seen so far in this round of the championship. We talk about the high price you pay for the 1%ers, and that's one of them right there, ladies and gentlemen. Sebastian Eskandari back up into 18th, Ryan Jones 19th, and Jackson Rayhana 20th at the moment. Just having a look at what's going on further afield. That was Hugo Allen on your screen there momentarily. We've picked up Rick Kuznetsov, Stewie Ellis. One of the OPR entries that nearly turned ugly. The OPR boys, Dylan Shepherd, Reece Wakefield. Shepherd has been absolutely gobbled up off this race start, hasn't he, Jake? I mean, you look at the fact that he was there ninth on the grid with Damon Woods. He has not been able to find a way through, and he's now boxed in behind Sam Muir at the moment. Around the outside goes Jackson Rayhana. He's under pressure there, however, from Luke Swan, who goes through on the inside.
He's looking for ways forward. Now, I'm just getting note here that Zach Kerr might be in a little bit of trouble. He's had a bit of a misdemeanor with Brock Gilchrist out there down at MG corner, so we'll have to get a look at that at a moment, because that will have championship implications tied to it out there on circuit. Rayhana finds himself with a bit of peace of mind heading to Siberia. This is the opening lap though, first and foremost, and this is where it started getting a little bit scary. We focus with Angus Lawford here, because on the run to Siberia, he's on the outside, turns to the inside here, it gets busy up in front, Pedersen comes back across, and then look, where do you go? He's just the one who's going to take the knock.
And someone had to in all of that. Not everybody was going to get through that bottleneck unscathed. There's Rayhana still under pressure from Swan. But look at how difficult it is going to be for Rayhana to find his way through. Not much clear air out there at the moment. Damon as well, all over the back of Baker and Brown. You just saw Zach Hanlon trying to work his way through as well. Woods to the inside of Baker, second at turn 1, and it is only lap 4.
I tell you what really does impress me about Damon Woods. It's not the fact he makes the moves, it's the fact that he cleanly makes the moves and he's never in risk out there. So there's the look down the inside. Oh, Pedersen, bang, skittles as it goes through. So that's him getting caught out on the opening lap, and that's why he dropped down the order. He'll not be too happy about that in terms of how they go. But back to Damon Woods. He is someone, for all the pace, right, you'd expect some form of bad luck, because some form of bad luck. There you go, trouble for Jackson Rayhana.
Indeed it is trouble for Jackson Rayhana. So, Damon Woods now eyes off Seth Brown. Rayhana licks his wounds. Lap 4 of 23, and the field's starting to spread out, but not enough to make it processional by any stretch, ladies and gentlemen. This will be compulsory, compelling viewing from first until last. Damon Woods, eyes off Seth Brown. Watch turn 1, Jake. That's where I reckon he'll make his lunge, make his move. This is riding on board with him right now through turn 11 to set up the run onto the main straight. It's important that he gets a clean run through here, and Seth Brown will know that he's a sitting duck at this particular point.
Damon Woods looking around, thinking, how am I going to get this pass done? Inside has normally been the place where the magic happens, and he's going to elect not to because he's not close enough, so he's actually going to push Seth Brown through the opening corner. I don't want to get it here. I want to maybe think about turn 2 and a lunge here, or maybe even turn 4, a better place to go and get that move. So I think he's now starting to think, right, I'm not just going to go throwing my race away. He's thinking about there, tactically working where the best place. Trouble for Hayden Veld.
And that makes his task of trying to work his way up through the points table even more difficult. Woods to the inside of Brown. Thanks for coming. And then the message to the pack as he looks through the rearview mirror, Jake, is thanks, boys. See you at the bend. Catch me if you can.
Yeah, you turn around, you look at this here. I think we're going to get a replay here with Route Swan first and foremost here. So this is coming up then through turn 2. This is what happens with Raihana's going to try and get the drive off the exit, catches the curb wrong and just loops him around. He just catches air on the rear left tyre and he just can't get full contact patches on the floor. Damon Woods right now and the way he's driving, someone's got to tell him to turn the CPU difficulty up.
Maybe some success ballast, maybe? Although you could throw an extra ton of lead or weight on that car in any way, shape or form, and Damon Woods would still find a way around it and find his way to the front. He's just superhuman at the moment in this series. There's no doubt about that. We go back to Sam Muir. 10th spot at the moment. Shepherd's moved up into 8th spot. His teammate McCartney behind him, and then Reece Wakefield down, who we caught up with before the race got underway, down there in 11th at the moment. Muir makes his move on the inside of Stephen McCartney. McCartney hangs tough around the outside to put himself on the inside, but he's got 2 wheels in the grass. He's going to have trouble pulling it up. He did well. Will it compromise his run on the exit, and will Muir be able to return serve when they get down to Miller?
I'd argue he had to go 2 tyres off Tim McCartan because Muir was understeering through turn 1, through Casey Stoner at turn 3 and over to Jack Miller at 4. Tries the outside, it's aggressive everywhere you look, trying the long way around then and trying to get overlap for Siberia. It's not there. Suddenly Reece Wakefield wants to go around the outside, and now Ryan Jones side by side as well, trying to figure out whether he's got away with Zach Ratcho White. He's quietly working up the order, now up to 17th spot as we take a look. I think we're about to get Hayden Veld's issue then through the opening corner, what dropped him down the order as you've got the battling into Lukey going in through on the bottom right corner. So there's the side by side with one of the Gamma Flare OPR cars. And look, they both get loose and they shuffle each other out. And then Hayden Veld takes the lessons learned by Dean Mackay and waits for a clear spot on the track to do a rejoin. That's how you do it.
Absolutely. Far better than what we saw earlier in the night. Race awareness, you don't want to... okay. Your race has been compromised at that particular point, but you don't want to wear any further invoices on top of that to further add salt into the wound. Damon Woods, fastest start of the race. You just saw the name light up purple at the top of your screen there. Across the start-finish line we go. We've picked up Ewan Baker chasing Seth Brown. So this is now the battle of the best of the rest. And they're about to face some stiff pressure from Stuart Ellis, but particularly Rick Kuznetsov. Byron Pierce sits there in 6th, Hugo Allen is 7th, and it's just one freight train of cars at this particular point in time. The margin for Damon Woods already out to 1.3 seconds, if you don't mind, Jake. Just extraordinary what this bloke can do behind the wheel of the 992.2. But then the next 10 cars, all the way down to Reece Wakefield in 11th, they're covered by 4.8 seconds. It's ridiculous.
It is. They're all together. They're forming these massive battle packs out there, and it's a case of, well, you swing, and if you miss, everybody else is going to try and get a strike in front. And this is something that we've talked about a little bit over the course of the season. These feature races at 23 laps, they are worth double the amount of points those race ones are worth. If you have a bad race 1, not the end of the world. A bad race 2, end of the world.
Lewis Greathead's just picked up an internet dropout as well. Trouble, IPR, and Eclipse, all pointing the wrong way at MG.
Marina
Morales, it's a one-line groove through there right now, Jake.
Yeah, they've just found a way by, and it will not feel good for Reece Wakefield nor Miles Burgess. Caught up with it. There's Reece Wakefield right now, chatting on the radio, going, what on earth happened there? It was Miles Burgess who was the catalyst into it, and Wakefield was the bystander in it. Who on earth got into me as I went down the hill? It was a case of bish, bash, bosh, and a game of ping pong broke out, and ultimately everybody was staring around going, no, we've served into the net.
You know how we were talking about it being 244 points, Damon Woods, to the rest of the pack coming into the round, and it's going to extend a fair bit on the way out. There's no doubt about that. A real distinct chance that he'll wrap it up in round 11 now, and we could even probably start having the discussion about round 10, such has been the dominance of Damon Woods so far. Have a look at this. Byron Pearce has got his hands full at the moment. Rick Kuznetsov's in there. So too Ewan Baker, Byron Pearce, Hugo Allen. They all want a piece of the pie at the moment. The 73, Stuart Ellis, Byron Pearce right there up on his inside. That's bowled at Lukey Heights.
Oh, move.
Brilliant move. Oh, trouble. Bang. Allen and Ellis off the road.
That's a huge off for Hugo Allen. And I think he realises just how much of a horrible moment that is. I don't know whether he's got damage. His hands up in the air, and he'll be looking to try and rejoin the circuit fair. He doesn't know where he is out on circuit compared to everyone else. He just waits for the black box relative to clear before he goes again. And a perfect chance of a rejoin there, but what a shame. He went uber aggressive to the inside trying to get that move, walking the tightrope, but someone had the snippers at the other end.
Really unfortunate for those guys. And Hugo Allen is reporting to pit lane. There was the big send down on the inside, the 193. So, yeah, you won't want to be in that OPR debrief with that incident. No doubt about that. It was a big dive from too far back, you would argue. Race Control will be loving having a look at that tape right now. Ewan Baker under pressure here from Seth Brown. These two still having at it. What are we, 9 laps into the race, Jake? And they've been inseparable so far.
Ewan Baker nearly had pass of the race there. He just had one issue with that one. He left the curbing open for Seth Brown to just absolutely tiptoe his way back through. And they are making moves that you make on the last lap. And Rick Kuznetsov's loving this here because it gives him the chance to get in up close. Gives him the chance to try and make this move for third. He'll dive down the inside of MG, try and take Ewan Baker's lunch money out there. And he's not going to get it fully here, so he's got to go around the outside of turn 11. That's not going to work, so now he's got to try and set up the run for the main straight.
Indeed he does. Round they come. Brown has been trying and trying and trying since the outset here to find a way back past Ewan Baker. He's managed to be able to do that, and now Rick Kuznetsov wants a piece of the action as well. Brown's got nearly half a second of the good here as they hit turn 1. Dillon corner. Oh, Hugo Allen was there on the inside and then got turned into the wall. That was at Lukey Heights. We mentioned that it was a bold move. It was a brave move. And it ended up costing him massively in the context of not just the round, but also the championship as well. We go back on board with Kuznetsov, who yet can't find a way through on Baker and is defending Byron Pearce at the moment. Dylan Shepherd and Sam Muir trying to latch back onto that battle pack. But unfortunately for Sam Muir, the horse has already bolted, I'd say, Jake, because he's 2.6 off that battle pack of second through sixth at the moment.
It's a massive group, and I tell you what, he's loving the fact that he's walked away 4 seconds clear as David Woods at the front. Kuznetsov over the top of Lukey Heights. That looks like Harry Lawrence in trouble, and it is there in the number 93 Impact Sims by Racers Porsche 992.2. Very weird place to have an off of the exit there. It looked like it was bringing gravel back. Oh, big incident. Big incident there coming down at MG. That's going to be one of those OPR cars. It's Stuart Ellis.
Stewie Ellis. So 3 OPR entries have unfortunately tripped up either with some assistance or on their own down at MG. It has not been a happy hunting ground for them tonight. And Ellis with that drops down outside the top 10. Scotty Rankin's up into 17th. Interesting to note, our commentary colleague has managed to make his way up through the field quite significantly through this second race of the night. Now, did Ellis get some help? Absolutely he did. Josh Perwin, the guilty party there. Netcode, it would appear. And that's unfortunate because how much of a prevalent talking point has Netcode been in the recent past? It's almost sickening, really.
Yeah. Not much you can do. Look at Ewan Baker right now. I tell you what, we're going to have to give him a new nickname. We're going to have to call him Hadrian for all the way he's holding back these Romans behind.
And that's the thing. We talk about there being plenty of opportunities to go overtaking here, and look at Rick Kuznetsov. You can tell that he's getting a little bit impatient with this now, but Baker's driving the perfect line to drive him up the wall to keep him at bay. And as long as he keeps parking it there, these guys are going to have an absolute nightmare working their way through. And the longer it takes them to find a way by Baker to clear air, the further and further into the sunset. Brown and Woods are going to bolt. Damon Woods' lead, ladies and gentlemen, on lap 11. The completion thereof is 5.3 seconds. Thanks for coming. And Seth Brown, Ewan Baker still holding down second and third. But how long can this staunch wall of defence of Ewan Baker withstand the pressure being thrust upon it at the moment?
Dylan Shepherd onto the back, Byron Pearce onto the back. They've got a bit of gap before Sam Newell, Stefan McCarthy, Perwy and Rattray White. Zach Rattray White, by the way, is up 18 places in this race. He is now in 10th spot, and he has just been putting the hard yards in to get something out of this. And he might, if they continue battling into the second half of this race, just like this here, Zach, find a way up to this group. He's got the pace. We know he's got the pace. It's just a question of, does he have the time?
And that's the point. The time is fast getting away from him. Half race distance this time by the line. Horse slowly starting to bolt. Rick Kuznetsov trying to find a way by Ewan Baker still. Baker driving mid-track. Very, very nicely done, and he's making it work. On the run through MG corner.
Big shunt up to the back from Rick Kuznetsov. He's tired here of Ewan Baker's gains. He wants to try and get through any which way he can. He's dented in the front of his Porsche 992.2, and now he's got to go for it. Another look at this one then through MG. You can see here he's looking to just pick up a big run, and he just goes bang. Oh. I am not playing that game.
Indeed.
Oh, no, trouble, Shepherd, around at turn one, and just off the back of Byron Pearce, he'll go spearing down the order.
He didn't go as far infield as what some other constituents have done so far this weekend, but it's a big moment nonetheless. Here we are on board. This was the moment again. There was contact. He was unsettled going into the corner and had no hope of dragging it back, rather. And Dylan Shepherd plummets down the order to 17th now. So every mistake proving very costly on the leaderboard. And that's 18th now. On the inside was Denny Davison. Scott Rankin up to 16th as a result of all of this madness.
Again, with Dylan Shepherd trying to find his way back past the Max Boost rider, he realises here, does Dylan Shepherd, just how many points he has left on the table with that moment out on track. Danny Davison trying to have a chat with race control at the same time. Shepherd's pushed off the road there, and Zach Hanlon is going to have a little watch of that. And suddenly race control has just got themselves an earful, all right, now to try and sort and figure out at this point. Baker still fighting here with Kuznetsov here. The third, fourth, fifth place is out there at the moment. Zach Rattray White now up into ninth spot with eyes on eighth against Josh Perwin. But Baker here at the moment is pretty much saying, look, nobody gets by me that easily. Okay, well, maybe Seth Brown does, but nobody except Seth Brown gets by me. Okay, well, maybe David Woods. Well, maybe except those two, nobody gets by me.
Exactly, and that's a fair effort in a field this stacked with talent to be able to withstand the pressure and hold your own. So he'll take a lot of confidence out of this result if he can finish off the job that he started so well so far. Jacob O'Reilly up 20 spots, and it's not as though he had any room to go down the order, Jake. The only way was up, and he's made it count. Plus 20 so far. Zach Rattray White also strong inroads, plus 19. So, yes, damage control for Zach Rattray White with a view to keeping second in the championship, and he can thank his lucky stars that Zach Kerr hasn't had the best night to ride home about either. He sits 13th at the moment behind Rattray White. Sebastian Eskandari plus 4 as well. Good to see the guy that we spoke to off the top of the broadcast tonight inside the top 10 now.
Interesting gear shifting style there from Jacob O'Reilly as Zach Rattray White goes through and up into 8th spot beyond Josh Perwin for position there. Jacob O'Reilly, the way he uses the shifter on his wheel, Zach, it's like he's giving us the bird every time.
And I'm sure there'd be plenty of people that would do that just for the sake of it. Let's have a look at this on the replay. Zach Rattray White on the ragged edge to MG. That's how you do it, ladies and gentlemen. Straight by Josh Perwin. And Perwin has now since got him back as well. Interesting to note. Now it's restored once more. So Ratway White and Perwin were side by side down the main straight. Ratway White has found his way through, back up into 8th. And now he's up plus 20 as well. Stephen McCartan, the next target, and only 0.5 of a second up the road. So let's weigh it up. Best possible outcome for Zach Ratway White at this particular point. I reckon he's looking at 6th. I reckon that's where the goalposts are for him right now. Get by McCartan, get by Sam Muir as well. I don't think Byron Pearce, who's 5 seconds up the road from him, is going to be catchable in the time that we've got left.
No, I don't think so either. Oh, there's a big turn. Mezzamo and Vel go straight over at turn 4 in through turn 5. And both of them, look at them, find themselves trouble. Mezzamo just takes the jump through. Hayden Vel is mired up in the tyres and now is going to have to try for... I don't think anyone has ever found themselves there except the old SimSpeed game of hide and seek 10 years ago. Yep, that's extraordinary. That's the first time I've seen anyone parked up on the inside of Siberia. Normally you see them jumping the wall on the exit of Siberia, not going into it. So that is a first and costly for that pair. Have they sustained damage? Are the cars drivable? Yes, they're drivable. Can they avoid coming to pit lane to grab repairs for the balance of the evening? They'll certainly be hoping so, but the damage well and truly done here, because look at how many cars are going to make their way through as they're spearing through the grass. 1, 2, 3, 4, at least 5, 6. Very costly moment for both men. 7. Look at that, off-roading there at its finest, and Hayden Veld will be a little bit upset that it's gone the way it's gone, but now watch out for second spot and third, because here comes now Rick Kuznetsov. He's been waiting for that moment and finally lulled into a false sense of security. The pass is made. Oh, contact. Byron Pearce wasn't going to see it by. Ewan Baker shuffled out of position. Byron Pearce getting very heavy-handed straight away, and he's already been dogged 15 seconds in race 1, so he'll be looking at race 2. Is he going to be getting more penalty points? Maybe. That'll be at the discretion of race control. Rick Kuznetsov has found his way through. Byron Pearce now finds his way through. Baker hasn't got enough breathing space to rest on his laurels here, because he's soon going to have to contend with Sam Muir. But if Muir gets caught up behind Baker, McCartan, Ratway White are soon there with the chance to latch on and have at it. So it'll be very much at the say-so of Baker and Muir here as to whether or not Ratway White and McCartan can latch on. Speaking of which, they're side by side heading down the Gardner Straight, and Josh Perwin getting the tow along as well. And Zach Ratway White on that outside line. McCartan is holding his ground so well here, but he knows how much he's got to go with. But Miles Burgess, by the way, 15-second time penalty for the contact then with Reece Wakefield out there. So it seems like even the teammates aren't going to be safe from penalty out there. We'll take a look here. Byron Pearce just shoving his way down the inside. Not enough overlap to go for that move. Baker entitled to shuffle across like that. Makes all the difference. Move down the inside. ZR Dub is making moves. That one for 7th spot. He is absolutely flying. The task now is trying to reel in the 2.5 second deficit to Muir and Baker. If he can do that, wow, a top 5 would well and truly exceed his expectations for how this race could have possibly played out based on how race 1 finished. Well, actually technically started for him. And really self-inflicted, made the rod for his own back there. No one to blame but himself in this particular instance. But a recovery mission well worth celebrating. Back to 7th right now. Samuel, the next target. There he is on your screen. He's chasing Ewan Baker. The wall of defence has slowly slipped. And now there is Seth Brown, and side by side with him is Rick Kuznetsov. Kuznetsov's going to 2nd. And these are vital points for him in the championship. He knows that this will get him back to Zach Kerr, who is back in 13th spot at the moment, and 2nd place points here are massive. With Zach Ratchray White in 7th, he's wanting to eat into those gaps and eat into those points, and he has done so magnificently with his 4th place in the heat. This is just the recovery round that Rick Kuznetsov was hoping for. He's not been the fastest in this series, but my goodness has he found a way to score points in the ways that others haven't. Indeed he has, and that is so vitally important with the big picture in view. Any points you can salvage here
to better improve, and that's across the board. The previous 7 rounds leading into the night as well, to salvage as best a finishing position at the end of the season as you can. All credit to you. And they're hip and shoulder side by side. Dylan Shepherd's got
between these two, Zach.
Absolutely not. I was about to say the same thing. You took the words right out of my mouth. And not lost on anybody that when you talk about the big teams, you're talking OPR, you're talking Vermilion, you're talking Eclipse, you're talking Logitech Orbit Drop Bear Motorsport as well. Rankin tried to fire it down the inside. That was never going to work, unfortunately, Scotty, my friend. There's no love lost between any of them, and there have been some wars brewing throughout the course of the season. DPR is another team name that you can throw into the mix there as well when we think about Ryan Jones, and he's in a team battle with the Logitech Orbit Drop Bear Motorsport stable. So, yes, no love lost, plenty fuel on the fire.
Yeah, and there goes Jacob O'Reilly through on Zach Kerr. That's him up into 13th spot, and now plus 21 out there as we work to 4:30 in the afternoon. The way the shadows are coming across the circuit, it might as well be 8:30 with how dark it's got. It's a solar eclipse hit or something. Oh, look at this down the inside. Lovely stuff there between these two. Byron Pierce then and Seth Brown. Brown holding off Pierce then on the defence, and this has every implication because this is for a podium out there. Seth Brown, 8th in the championship. Byron Pierce, you argue, needs it more. You remember, he comes into it 15th in the championship, and he's only safe in the top 20 right now by 25 points, and he has had a 15-second penalty in race 1.
Yep, and that'll hurt when you look at the results on reflection at the end of this night. So he'll be trying to limit the damage as best as possible in this second race. Important to get by his teammate Seth Brown, but Brown not making life easy for him. They've lost contact with Rick Kuznetsov as well. David Woods has just 4 laps to go, ladies and gentlemen. The lead is 11.1 seconds. You're kidding, aren't you?
No.
Just further evidence of the dominance of the bloke from first until last so far this season, and there's still 4 rounds to go, and that's the worrying thing for most of this paddock. There you are.
That is a lot of inside of Porsche towards turn 1. Shep is on the charge. Now he's got Lachlan Capel, teammate to Scott Rankin, to go and get by, and does so quite comfortably there. So Dylan Shepherd continues to find the move and says, yep, good job, well done out there. Capel, not much he can do about that. So it's going to be another case of the chase back on, and Seth Brown still having to hold his ground. And the more that they scrap, the more that they're going to get into it here. As Jacob O'Reilly back down into 14th, him and Kerr swapping around. And I think they're working in tandem to get themselves up the order, but I'm keeping an eye here on Zach Rattray-White, who's got the gap down to 1.8 seconds. He took 6/10 out the last lap.
Not mucking around is Zach Rattray-White once he's found clear air, and he hasn't had much of that tonight. Let's be perfectly honest. He's now got 1.6 to reel in Sam Muir, who's now boxed in by Ewan Baker, who's boxed in by Byron Pierce. Rattray-White is a real chance at snaring at least 6, maybe 5th here, but it's going to go right down to the final lap.
So hold on to your hats, because this one is not done. We have not guaranteed where the podium's going to lie, whether it's going to be Brown or Pierce who holds that, whether Ewan Baker has something to say to get back, whether Sam Muir wants himself in the party, or can Zach Rattray-White from 28th on the grid find a way to make up for the biggest jump start in Moza Racing Porsche Pro Invitational history. Through turn 2, they work through the southern loop, look for the drive on the exit, 180 kilometres an hour as you go over that curve, but they work now over through at the back straight end of this circuit, through Casey Stoner, over to Jack Miller. I don't think you'll see a move here, but you'll see them still close back up Concertina and say, look, the pace is still there and the pressure is still on.
And you just feel that that's the case right throughout the field. You cannot afford to take a breath in this series. From first right through, what have we got on the grid tonight? 37 cars, and important to note, we haven't had a caution tonight. We've still got 34 on the racetrack. Hugo Allen's parked up. Lewis Greathead, Benny Pedersen, all parked up at the moment through incidents, but they have been able to get back to pit lane on their own accord. There's been no calls for tow. There's been no calls for assistance. There's been no need to deploy for a safety car, and I dare say we're not going to see it tonight as a result, because we are now only 3 laps from home. Damon Woods, Rick Kuznetsov, margin 12 seconds. Can Ewan Baker hold on to a top 5 finish? Sam Muir, I'm sure, has something to say about that, but Muir's got to be more worried about the fact that Zach Ratway-White is close to within 1.2 right now.
Ewan Baker needs this finish. This will put him up into the top 20. He'll jump Harry Lawrence, he'll jump Brock Gilchrist, he'll jump Angus Lawford and Hugo Allen and Stuart Ellis out there. He will jump as well. There is Sam Chapman back in 20th position with the Logitech headphones on in papaya orange there, the A50Xs that he's working with right now. I have my own set. They're very, very lovely out there to go and use, but he's working through turn 2, trying to give himself everything he can with just a couple of laps to go here now, Zach.
You mentioned that top 20. You mentioned Brock Gilchrist. We've barely mentioned him tonight. Boxed in down there in 24th at the moment. Stuart Ellis, after getting caught up in that incident earlier, 25th. Luke Swan, 26. Guys that we have talked about at length. Oh, Trouble McCartan. Wow, wait, what a moment that was for the 51. Barely got away with it. Purwin down on his inside.
Yeah, Metal Grey, oh sorry, not Metal Grey, but Hayshed, he comes over too. I've got my circuits mixed up. Over the top of Lukey Heights there. Stephen McCartan at the cost of 1 position there. Sees Josh Purwin go through, another driver who's in desperate need of points out there. Eskandari is on the back, all over the grass, coming out of Siberia, over pushing it, and then he leaves his snail trail along as he now starts the fold, goes to start the final lap of this race. Keep an eye on Byron Pierce. He's been waiting patiently to see whether he can get to third. He's got to run here into turn 1. He thought about the moves. We take a look at the replay here. This looks like Danny Davison running out a little bit deep. Yes, it is. He just got through on Scott Rankin and he gives it up. That will turn the unicorns back to horses in a race like this one. Pierce through the southern loop just gets a bucket of understeer. They're caught out in the wake of that rear wing, and Ewan Baker still watching on. You're watching on. Ratway-White needs a few more laps in my book if he's going to get there. Every trick in the book trying to be used right now to see if there's any form of mistake to be thrown so late on here around Phillip Island, which has brought the action, and it's come to you caution free for the first time this season. So that's going to be huge in terms of result. But this guy, well, he walked through, took him 4 laps to get to the front of the field from 10th. He's managed to find a gap now of over 12 seconds. To say that this is his favourite track's an understatement. He's left everyone for toffee once again. Damon Woods says Phillip Island in Porsches perfection. Round the final corner, he has routed the entire Moza Racing Porsche Pro Invitational, and nary even a smile as he crosses the line for just how good of a day he's had.
Match point. That's that. We're calling it. It's Damon Woods, daylight, and then everybody else. Byron Pierce across the line, Rick Kuznetsov second, Seth Brown held on for third, then Pierce. Well done to Ewan Baker, got that top 5. Sam Muir just held off Zach Ratway-White. Ruining what might have been, goes right back to that start on the grid there for race 1. Well done to Josh Purwin, Stephen McCartan, Sebastian Eskandari. All of this provisional until any penalties may be applied by race control. 11th for Ryan Jones. Then you go back to Tice Hodge, Zach Kerr, Jacob O'Reilly and Dylan Shepherd. You mentioned some of those guys, Jake, that needed a good showing with a view to trying to get back into the top 20 and push their way forward. It hasn't necessarily gone their way either, and they're running out of opportunities in which to turn their season around. Good recovery, Scotty Rankin up into 17th there behind his teammate Lachlan Capel. Dylan Shepherd in the wars again, but he managed to get away with 15th. Zach Henlon 18th, Sam Chapman 19th, Denny Davison 20th, and Pat Klein 21st. Ryan Jones 11th, the 11 in 11th, very nicely done, and Tice Hodge just behind him to cover off any loose ends there. Damon Woods, he mentioned, as you said, when we were at Mount Panorama, he mentioned just how much he loves the island. That was a thing of beauty tonight, the stuff of legend. Real deflating to anybody else in this paddock, the way he's come out and absolutely monstered it and destroyed them single-handedly and cruised and made it look terribly easy. But that has been the way he has gone about his business from the first round of the championship back at the Hockenheimring in Germany. So not really a surprise to see him at the top step of the summit again. I fear how big that championship advantage is going to be when we have a look at the revised points tomorrow morning, once all the penalties have been applied and everything else, Jake. But I dare say we're talking potentially upwards of 300 points going into the final 4 rounds of the season, which is a round and a half on the pack. It is just obliterating stuff.
Damon Woods is proving once again just how good he is. 12.6 over the line ahead of Rick Kuznetsov, with Seth Brown and Byron Pearce finding their way onto the podium here at Phillip Island. Ewan Baker, a critical 5th place finish for him, will put him inside the top 20 to retain licence for next season, with Sam Muir 6th and Zach Rattray-White recovering from 28th position to get to 7th. Josh Perwin would finish ahead of Stefan McCartan and Sebastian Eskandari in his new team, finding a top 10 result then here today from Phillip Island. Ryan Jones, critical points for him to keep himself in the top 20. 11th place is a job well done, with Tice Hodge, Zach Kerr and Jacob O'Reilly, 3 Vermilions in a row, as Dylan Shepherd would fall back to 15th after his contact with Byron Pearce. Lachlan Capel and Scott Rankin just behind him, with Zachary Hanlon, Sam Chapman and Danny Davidson making up your 20 in this pack. Got 33 on the lead lap, so mid-late pack for Pat Klein and Angus Lawford. Consistent points the way of Lawford's day, with Jared McLeod and Brock Kilchrist, who walked into today on the bubble, might be looking around saying, I need a few better results than that for Momentum Racing in 24th, with Stuart Ellis there down in 25th, ahead of Luke Swan and Reese Wakefield also running into troubles. Jackson Rayhana, Harry Lawrence and Simon Mesamo make up the 30, with the last on the lead lap being Marina Morella, Dean Mackay and Hayden Veld. Miles Burgess would be a lap down, and retirees would be Hugo Allen, Lewis Greathead and Ben Pedersen then from that race. A tough day at the office for many out there that have gone, but well, I think there's no better place to start than with the man who's dominating this championship here in the number 56 of Damon Woods to chat. I know I don't have the ability to drag him in, but we will have the chance to chat to all of our drivers as someone's engine has gone out there at point. Damon, you're going to be about 300 points clear now at the top of the championship after a result like that. That couldn't have been any easier for you at a circuit that you just have such a great affinity with.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah, being able to gel with the track really well helped. Said it was lucky that Zach jumped the start in race 1. One of his buttons let go, so yeah, it's unfortunate for him. Yeah, I mean, I can't really complain. I mean, I did the hard work in race 2 to fire back through the field and, you know, get my nose clean, and yeah, I mean, I'll take some healthy points advantage going to the next round.
And in terms of how you get there, of course, we talk about drivers who have their luck, and it seems like every time you find the way up the order, you don't get yourself caught up in incidents. The car craft, the race control is just absolutely perfect for you. And how much of that have you been putting that work in with that start for you? 7 places in a lap and a corner off of the get-go. How did you look to pick your way through the field? And just take us through that opening lap on how you constructed yourself on that lap to gain those places.
Well, I mean, a lot of it stems from my real-life racing through karting and Formula Ford as well. I never had the budget to go in and send it like crazy and, you know, tear corners off the car, so I've always been quite critical with how I think about going about lap 1s. Obviously, in the sim, you can be a little bit more aggressive, but yeah, for me, again, having raced real life here, I kind of knew where the checkup points were going to be, especially on the inside with everyone going to crowd it on their way into Honda, and same with MG. So yeah, if there's going to be 6 cars on the inside that are all going to check up, eventually someone's going to get hit. And yeah, I saw everyone swing to the inside, and I was like, oh, I'll try my luck on the outside. I knew our package on the brakes was really good, and yeah, I said I gave enough room to the inside and just carried enough momentum, and yeah, I said I was just playing it as smart as I could, try to leave as much room as I can, and I think a little bit of luck goes my way as well, but yeah, you got to put yourself in those positions to, you know, end up getting through it. So yeah, so there's a combination of real life stuff, but also, yeah, just being smart with car placement and everything.
You have this margin, it's Tailem Bend in 3 weeks' time on the 16th of September, so with this margin that you have, I know you're the sort of person who just doesn't take the foot off the throttle, who always is hungry to go out there, more wins, more opportunities, more victories. It's given you this stead to say, look, you're out there and you're tearing everyone else apart out there. But does Tailem Bend a circuit that's a little bit more newer in Australian speed, does it give you more a sense of I need to put the time and the practice in, or do you feel quite comfortable with what Tailem Bend offers you?
Well, similar to Phillip Island, I've had the opportunity to go race at the Bend, so I really enjoyed it when I was there. So the track suited my driving style pretty well. It was in an Aussie racing car, which isn't quite a Porsche Cup car, so there's obviously little differences there. But in terms of the flow and how you can actually race around the track, I quite enjoy it. So it's similar to Phillip Island in the sense that, yeah, I feel quite comfortable there, and I do have that prior real life experience as well. So yeah, I think it should be good. If we're on the West layout as well, which I believe we are, it should be good fun. In my personal opinion, it's better than the full supercars layout. So yeah, I'm really keen, and we'll see how it cracks on.
Well, I would say, once again, a taste of champagne and a smile on the face. Damon Woods, he just keeps on winning, doesn't he? And does so yet again, the double, this time at Phillip Island. And what a pleasure to have him along with us. Zach, I believe you've had a little wander down the paddock, and you've got yourself with Rick Kuznetsov in the Triple Eight.
I do indeed, and a very good night at the office. I mean, let's be honest, you're not going to top what Damon Woods has put on the table. Ladies and gentlemen, not many people will throughout the course of this season. But Rick, nice return to form, mate. A fourth in race one, which of course put you seventh on the grid for race number 2. You've worked your way through the field nicely. Had to be a little bit aggressive there in parts. That's just the nature of racing at Phillip Island in a field as tightly packed, competitively speaking, as this. But to walk away with second, that's a really strong result, mate, and possibly a turnaround moment with a view to the fact that coming into the round, you're 113 points in arrears of Zach Kerr. So being able to trump him twice tonight means that third in the points race is still mathematically on the table.
Yeah, I was mega to come back after a pretty unlucky weekend the race before. Trying to redeem myself. I think Bathurst were really strong in pace as well, but we did get into a bit of a shunt. So points was definitely hurting. So to come back with a P4 and a P2 is pretty nice. It's very nice. Indeed,
and I mean, a mixed bag of results for the team tonight, but it's interesting, isn't it, when we look at where you guys sit. You've got Zach Ratway-White and Marino Morella to one side of either of you in this championship points race coming into the round. Zach in second, Marino in fifth. You and Zach Kerr right in the middle there, third and fourth. Good little inner team battles on the table at the moment. From your standpoint, though, how important is it to take the momentum out of tonight and push on for the balance of the season, starting with the Bend in South Australia in 3 weeks' time?
Yeah, it's just about banking the points, really, not going too crazy. This whole season I've been trying to be smart with my moves and not try to get as much points as possible. Obviously, you can't control every shunt out there, but I think we've done pretty solid this season in just keeping the car clean and getting pretty solid results, and hope to continue to do that for the whole season.
Mixed bag, as I say, for the team across the board tonight as well. There'll be a couple of the guys, no doubt, the tail dangling between their legs. But that's been the nature of the season, hasn't it, mate? There's been nights where you haven't had the run of the mill, where they've been able to capitalise. You've got to take those lucky breaks when they fall your way, though.
Yeah, exactly. I think everyone had a okay night. I haven't spoken to the boys yet, but yeah, it's just every race is different. We always try different stuff as well, so results can differ for sure.
We know how much Damon Woods loves Phillip Island. I have a feeling that a lot of the paddock loves this venue. For you, is it a circuit that when the calendar was released earlier in the year, you circled as one you were looking forward to?
Yeah, 100%. It's been one of my strongest tracks. Been really strong with V8 supercars at this track, and also now at Porsche Cup. So yeah, it's definitely one of my favourite tracks for sure.
Just a couple of words from you with regards to how difficult it was working your way through from seventh in that invert race, mate. A magnificent defence from Seth Brown and Ewan Baker for a long period of at least the first half of the 23 laps.
Yeah, I knew I had a lot of time to fight, so I wasn't trying to be too aggressive. Ewan Baker definitely made it very difficult for me. I was trying to be patient as I could, and I did went for a last minute move, which actually worked out really well. But it was definitely really good defence move, so it took me a very long time to actually get past him.
Indeed, and where are the goalposts for you, mate? Is third the best you can hope for with 4 rounds to go? I mean, it's not lost on anybody just how dominant Damon Woods has been particularly, and Zach Ratway-White has played second fiddle for the duration of the season thus far, despite a couple of slip-ups in the last 3 rounds.
I think P2 is still definitely possible if we keep our nose clean. And obviously just try to get as much best results as we do like tonight. I think P2 is definitely possible, but I would be very happy if P2 regardless.
Let's be perfectly honest, you were one of the beneficiaries of the invert right back in round one at the Hockenheim ring. You went through and converted there nicely. How much do you enjoy that challenge? Firstly, qualifying in its own right, it's its own separate challenge, and we know that you've been pretty good there with qualifying pace throughout the course of the season. But what about when we get into race trim? Do you like the rip, tear, rush, bust, hustle, bustle of the invert?
Yeah, it can definitely make it more interesting. I think I personally am a better at the race pace than quali. I think I've been struggling with quali all season, but I think lately I've actually improved myself, which is nice. But the invert definitely makes it very exciting. I think for the viewers, definitely makes it more enjoyable to watch as well.
Speaking of enjoyment to watch, I have my mixed views with regards to the bend. I certainly feel as though the West configuration is the best in terms of the spectacle that the viewers at home get. But from a driver's standpoint, how much do you look forward to, or not, the challenge that lies await when we go racing there in 3 weeks' time? Noting that of the circuits on the server and the circuits on this tour, it's certainly one of the newer ones.
I haven't done much laps there, to be honest. I've only done, I think, one scup round there, so I wasn't particularly faster on that track. I didn't really get the groove of it so far, but it's definitely a good track to learn, I reckon. It's got a lot of corners, so just get a right dock and practice in it, you might be all right.
All right, very nicely done, mate. Congratulations tonight. I don't think there's anything else to add to that. Solid result. Difficult night for so many around you, but a fourth and a second, take that any day of the week, especially when it keeps you in the mix as far as the top 3 in the championship is concerned. Thanks for stopping on by for a chat, and we'll catch up when we get to the bend.
Cheers, thanks guys.
And Jake, this guy was part of that staunch defence that the invert front row put up throughout the course of the early part of that second race. He was able to hold off in the end. The guy that he started ahead of, which was Ewan Baker. You've got Seth Brown alongside you. I'm interested to hear what the Eclipse Sim Sport racer has to say.
Well, I am as well, because, Seth, you qualified the car 18th at the start of the night, and the role and responsibility was try and get yourself up to the top 10, and then all of the crazy stuff happened on the opening lap, and suddenly you found yourself there.
Yeah, I mean, the first race was pretty good start for me. I went from 18th to 9th in the first lap, and then didn't pass a single car till the rest of it. But yeah, pretty much just, yeah, I knew that it's going to be hard to pass, so I thought only time I'm going to do it is then. So yeah.
It gave you the platform then, start on the front row or in and around that front row for what you needed to do. And you got really aggressive off the start, found yourself there. Ewan Baker gave you a really good showcase in the opening laps.
Yeah, well, I thought I'd lost the start because he got the better jump than me originally, but I somehow got like the second part of it good, and then I just got to the lead and prayed I had the pace, which I didn't. And then I just, as long as you don't crash when you're up that far ahead, it's easy to get a good result.
And so when you're looking at your championship and what you're trying to get, you walked into today on the bottom side of the top 10. No Tom Bewley today. Dean Mackay had big troubles. Marina Morella had troubles. Kerr had troubles. Rattray White had troubles. Suddenly this becomes a case of the top 10 all struggled, and you were the only one really to keep your nose clean, with the exception of Rick Kuznetsov. Do you feel like if you get more rounds like that, this could potentially be a top 5 at the end of the season?
I mean, I feel like the top 15 always have good results and bad results. Like I had a bad one at Bathurst, so I'm sure I might have a bad round and they'll have a good round. So I mean, top 5 will be pretty hard, but I mean, as long as like I'll be happy with just a couple good results like I did tonight.
Well, there is that level-headedness out of Seth Brown, which I think is sometimes very refreshing to hear, but a great day at the office. 18th to 9th, a 2nd to 3rd out there over the course of racing, and absolutely wonderful to see Seth Brown here with us then from Eclipse Sim Sport. Zach, we now have to talk about next time out in 3 weeks, because we head to Shell V Power Motorsport Park at the Bend, and a circuit that often is, I would say, the newest circuit out there in terms of Australian racing, with a category out there that has normally been so easily put together. But one of these rounds where you turn around, you look at and say, okay, what do I need to go and get out there to be good? And I think you need all of your fundamentals to be quick here at the Bend.
100%. It's not lost on anybody that it is a tough racetrack to master, 4.95 kilometres, and you're going to see plenty of it over the course of the next 3 weeks on the SimSpeed Esports Network platforms, because you will see the Porsches there on the 16th, but more immediately, you may have just seen it on your screen, the supercars there next week. And then, of course, in the middle, have a look at that. Some dirt track action for you as well from Lernerville. But all of those times, Australian Eastern Standard Time, at least for the next 6 weeks, ladies and gentlemen. We'll talk about that when we get to October and how all that changes. But yes, supercars, Speedway, Porsches the next 3 weeks. To answer your point, it's a tough racetrack. It's a grueling racetrack, and if the field spreads out, it'll be a tough slog for us in the commentary box as well, Jake. Very different racetrack to Phillip Island. Plenty of opportunity to overtake, especially on that long main straight. Plenty of slipstream potential there, but plenty of opportunity to trip up around the back of the circuit as well, and for the field to spread out, which I expect to see a bit more of in the feature race next week. And there will be a lot of drivers circling that as an opportunity to thrive on the big stage, because it is a driver's circuit. We were very lucky in the sense that, Phillip Island, Le Mans, some of the circuits that we've been to already, slipstream friendly, so you can get away with car setup getting you out of jail. But here, driver's circuit. So you need to, as a driver, and obviously you need to master the setup as well, but you need to be switched on and bring your A game driving-wise in 3 weeks' time as we start the third and final third, to use an NHL reference, of this championship fight, mate. And it should be a beauty, and it's the third consecutive round on Australian soil, which we're looking forward to. But as you can see there on your screen, plenty of Shell V-Power Motorsport Park coming up.
Yeah, we're heading very quickly into the crunch end of the season, and this is where championships get made. As we take a look there with Dale Earnhardt Jr. on the right-hand side on the jetty, looking very happy along with us. That's one of the Easter eggs. Every circuit has one of those out there here from the wonder that is iRacing out there, and Steve Myers there on the left-hand side from iRacing itself. An absolute joy again to see the Moza Racing Porsche Pro Invitational giving absolutely everything it can out there, and then some for its charge. But there is one thing about levels in sim racing. You got the level of beginner, you got the level that you run through and you get your class system sorted. And then when you jump into a league, you work out where you are compared to everybody else. And there's a level at the bottom of that, to the middle, to the near the top, to the top. And then you get Damon Woods, who is stratospheric by comparison to that regard. Here in this Porsche Pro Invitational is a case where round 8 is his, and it looked like it was always going to be his. And it looks like any round that he sets his mind to may be his. 300 at least clear as he walks into the final third of the season. This might not be a case of if, this might be a case of when. And to just quote Tiger Woods' commentary over 2000 Pebble Beach, it's the same for Damon Woods. It's just not a fair fight.